What's going on, everybody? Patrick Connor here. Welcome back to the Knuckles and Gloves podcast, or perhaps welcome if it's your first time. If you're a Knuckles and Gloves Virgo, dude, welcome. And we have a special episode. I guess every episode is special because we do them kind of infrequently at this point. My boy Aris Pina here is with me, do some history shit, but we're also joined once again by our friend of the show, BoxRec Grey Johnson. How is everybody doing, man?
Really
Feeling
good.
Love to hear it, dude. Let me just go ahead and say, let's just push it out there. It's not really a whole lot great or, normal, sane to talk about contemporary wise. A lot of time the history shows are at least kind of inspired by current events and stuff like that. Boxing's in a weird place, you guys. There's no other way to put it, man. We're in a very strange transitional period right now. Thankfully, it sounds like a bunch of people have renewed like TV or app contracts and stuff like that. So at the very least, boxing's not going anywhere as far as being televised. But we're in a weird place.
We are. Who's going to be controlling it might be different by the end of the year. The big power brokers, but yeah, I mean, in terms of the zone up in their deal with Golden Boy and new deal with Top Rank, that's good for the sport. Happy to hear that they've figured that out, and I know that they're non-exclusive contracts as well, so that's very interesting. So we could see some other options as well available to those promoters. So the non-exclusive part is fascinating to me.
Yeah, dude. And I mean, also our boy Aris here does a little bit of that punch counting. So any more boxing on TV is always a good thing for pretty much all of us, even just from a fan standpoint, dude. Whether they're
Well, it's good for
whether
all of
we're
us.
working or whatever, we just want to see more boxing for the most part, you know.
It's good for all of us. Yeah, it is.
I mean, I don't know. I think back on that joke that people used to get mad when PBC first was coming out on the scene, and they had like fights on literally every channel you can imagine. It seemed at some point, and then people were like, "Well, this is too much boxing." We were just like, "Well, just a year or two ago, you said we had too little on the screen. Now we have too much." And I don't know, and then the goalposts change too because it comes out that people just want to be fans of certain promoters or entities and all that. So if someone like Turkey or the Ring or whatever it may be starts putting on shows and they want to, be stands for them, and they're just like, oh, well, this is great now. Why don't you just saying 5 years ago boxing suck? I don't know. It's a weird place. Boxing fans suck and everything's crazy.
I think the other thing too, we need to keep our expectations of these upcoming shows kind of low, in my opinion, because I feel like less money is being thrown around. I don't think Top Rank is going to have the same budget that they had at ESPN. I don't think Golden Boys, if I had to guess, the budget they'll have at the Zone with this new contract, I could see it being less than before. And from what I've heard about ESPN with the MVPW contract, that is way less than they were paying Top Rank. And I mean, it's terrible to say it's women's sports, so they can afford, they can do that. But I think that was part of the appeal may have been, oh well, we can get boxing on the air and not pay as much. So I just, I would say to the fans out there, definitely keep your expectations a bit tempered for the rest of the year with some of these cards. I don't think they're going to be as stacked and loaded as you'd like them to be, but they'll at least be something to watch. So I'll take that, I guess.
It's a bit of a long game, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I feel pretty confident saying that boxing's not, it's never going to go anywhere. Like, it's never going
Mm.
to be killed off. It's never going to be fully pushed away or anything like that. Might kind of go fringy for a bit, but it seems to kind of fluctuate. Obviously, it will never really get back to a place where it was in like the 1920s. That's never going to be there
Uh,
again. But it's okay because we could still get back to like maybe approaching like 90s and 2000 status. We might get back there. We'll see.
we'll
But
see.
in the meanwhile, I think that's a big part of the reason why we're also focusing on, and it's because of the contemporary or lack of contemporary stuff to talk about. We're also focusing on the history, also because I think the first time that we did this new faces business was pretty fun. It worked out pretty well. We got to kind of learn about fighters we hadn't really talked about in a while or never talked about. Had a couple surprises opening up the pages to like, oh shit, look at this fucking guy. So hey, that's where we are. We're going to be, for anybody who's like new faces, what the fuck does that mean? Boxing magazines throughout the decades have always had these kind of sections where one of the editors or one of the writers brings up a fighter who's like usually an up and coming contender or something like that. And they do a few paragraphs, maybe a page or two about this fighter and their career and blah, blah, blah. And a lot of the times it's a really good predictor of who might be a future contender or even champion. And then there's been some completely random characters that like make zero sense whatsoever. So we're going to try to get a good spread today. Gray, I know you got a couple in the pipeline, dude. Let's go.
Okay, I'm gonna just pull up a. So I was telling Pat before we went on the air. Whenever they have me on, I wanted to kind of go into this mostly blind, but I just can't help myself. I always love to do a little bit of research before the show. I know I'm a bad boy, but I got into boxing around 2000, so I was always like, okay, I'm gonna go to the old Ring Magazine archives, which are also on archive.org. Shout out to that. They were immensely helpful. Whoever put all the old magazines up there, so I can just grab them really quickly. Thank you. And archive.org, you should be going to just in general for lots of information. So the great website if you're not bookmark it. But anyway, so of course I pulled up in the 2000 January 2000, and the first name popped right out at me because it's a guy that I have a lot of I was really happy to see his name because somebody I've followed his career quite a bit, and it was interesting to see him as listed there. But Teddy Reed was the new face of
Okay.
January 2000. So I know you guys have probably watched him back in the day, but he was somebody that brought a lot of entertainment to ESPN. Never quite got over the hump, but that's a guy that I don't know, Aris, you probably have some memories too. But he was always a really good TV fighter. I feel like entertaining.
Yeah, he was a great TV fighter. Not only was he a great, I mean, like great value. Now he wasn't a great fighter. He was just a lot of fun to watch. He was in wild ass brawls, and
Yeah.
I remember he had like a certain like swagger to him. Like he had a confidence because he knew he could knock the shit out of you if he really landed, and so he had this like kind of cocky essence where people were happy to see him get beat up sometimes. And if he would get whooped. There were times where the guys on like because he made his name mostly on ESPN, like you said on the
Yes.
fight circuit, but
Couple
before
times on
that,
Showtime too. Yeah.
yeah,
Popped up on Showtime. Yep.
but I believe he tried. Didn't he kill somebody by accident one time in a fight?
Yes, he did. And I believe that was Emiliano Valdez
That's
in
it.
like yeah, like it was probably not after long after that New Faces article came out, which is wild.
And I mean, he seemed like unlike other fighters, it didn't. I know he was bothered, but it didn't seem to like affect his career in terms of
No.
because he still ascended after that. You know what I mean? Like he wasn't even a contender when the tragedy happened. So I'm trying to remember. I don't have his record up right now. Some of the guys he was fighting on Friday Night Fights.
So he wasn't like that. He fought like got guys like kind of that level below world title. So like he lost to like Golden Johnson. He lost
Yeah, one
to
of the
Ben
all-time
Tack.
great boxing names.
It's a great name. Ben Tacky, I believe that was like an eliminator to
I was
fight
on Showtime. Yep.
Stu, I want to say. Yeah, it might have been on Showtime, but I remember he fought Ben Tacky and got stopped. But he would always be able to beat guys that were kind of on that level below, like a Ben Tacky. Like he fought like Pat Coleman and Elio Ortiz, or,
Oh, that was a fucking war.
Oh, I didn't
yes.
realize he knocked out Coffin.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
was his first big win.
And then he got a shot at Kermit Cintrone for the interim WBO interim belt, and that was
It
when
was on HBO,
Cintrone.
wasn't it?
Caught a
Yeah,
beating. Yeah.
yeah, and I think yes, good memory. Central beat the crap out of him that night, and that was honestly kind of it went all downhill for him after that. Unfortunately, some losses at the end of the career, like Rodney Jones, a draw with JC Candello, Verno Phillips, who was pretty old at that point, stopped him too. So, but I feel like he was one of those guys that like I kind of get at that point why they might have featured him. I think he had just stopped like Terrence Cawthon, who was an Olympian, like right before that. So. It's not like it's defendable, like why they put him in there. But obviously
The
not a
Coffin
guy
win
that,
was big too. I mean, Coffin wasn't on the same caliber or trajectory of say Mayweather
no,
or Vargas or David Reed, but
a
he
good
was featured.
fighter.
Yeah, he was featured on HBO pay-per-views when I remember right away.
Hmm.
I think maybe even his pro debut, in fact.
Yeah.
He was featured on television often. He was well known, and he was a guy. that people expected to at least challenge for a title, something, and he got
Just
wrecked in
wasn't
that fight.
just wasn't much of a puncher either. So it's
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
probably hurt his career quite a bit. But yeah, so like Teddy Reed was definitely like could he once he got to like the top 15 opponents, he just couldn't beat them. Like he was always a fun guy to watch.
So there was this is also some shit that like, apparently since Teddy Reed is from the DC area, and there were a whole bunch of fighters like that. I mean, if you didn't watch boxing around that like late 90s, early 2000s time, and maybe even a little earlier, you'd probably be not familiar with a bunch of the fighters, or maybe just, barely familiar. Even Mark Johnson, like, dude, Mark Johnson was, he was a champion for a while, but he was just, maybe it was just the lack of promotion. I don't know if it was the size, but dude was just not known to the average sports fan like at
Yep,
all. You know what I mean? So
that's true.
anyway,
That's true.
that being said, there was still a chunk of really good fighters out of the DC area and stuff at that time. That being said, apparently, uh, William Joppy and Teddy Reed had gotten into some shit at some point in the 90s because William, and this is just what I heard. I have absolutely no clue if this is just what was passed along on like message boards and shit. They did get into it, but the rumor part of it was that they got into it was because William Joppy's child had passed away, and as they were sparring, Teddy Reed was apparently beating his ass and saying something about it. And so William Joppy
Whoa.
got pissed off. They ended the sparring session, and Joppy started throwing weights, like as in like lifting weights, like weights at him and shit. And it wound up like causing damage to the gym and doing all this shit and blah blah blah. And then Teddy Reed wound up trying to sue him like years and years and years after the fact and
Yo,
shit
I
like that.
found the article. This is so good.
It was like, dude, it was crazy, bro. Like, I mean, and on top of that, Teddy Reed was just one of those guys, almost kind of like he was like cruel in the ring. Like he was a dickhead. Like he was like
That's what I
getting
meant.
guys
Yeah.
hurt and he would just be like following him around, like ready to kill him and shit. And I mean, and I don't mean to joke around like that because I know it happened, but that was just the kind of fighter he was. Some dudes have like a mean killer instinct, and he did.
What a memory pad on this. This is crazy. Yeah, 2005. He he oh wow. There's like you can Google this, but there's a long article about William Joppy getting into it. Crazy.
Yeah, it was a big street brawl type of thing. And I mean, it was kind of like salacious news at the time. It was more just kind of it was like TMZ style shit at the time, so few cared, but I remember anyway. Because I
He
remember Teddy Reed, he was a fun dude to watch. That Elio Ortiz fight, if that's up on YouTube, check it out if you haven't seen it, because it's fun. Like Elio Ortiz goes down like four, five, six times, but then like hurts Teddy Reed back like every single time. It's fucking great.
apparently also Joppy fought Henry Sugar Poo Buchanan like like pulled him over at a traffic stop and they like brawled in the middle of the street.
I didn't know that.
Cause I'm like, I found another article about another William Joppy brawl and lawsuit. Like he's been
I mean, like
sued
I met
multiple
Joppy
times.
one time, and he seemed like a mellow, nice guy. Didn't seem like a guy that was
Yeah,
looking for trouble.
I
Like
know.
certain fighters you're around, and you get the sense that okay, this makes sense. He's like, right away, he just has those type of eyes that he's looking to do some damage. Joppy never gave me that impression. He always seemed
That
like a pretty chilled out person.
that sounds like some gym beef right there. Because those two guys were definitely those were both DC fighters and different teams. So I bet you that was some bad gym beef. That
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, and I mean
who
that
knows?
happens. But I
And
anyway, I
yeah,
just remember that
yeah.
shit happening, and it was just like that's fucking weird.
Incredible.
Aris, you got another new face up in this bitch.
Yeah, so the first time that we did the show, we just stuck to Ring Magazine, but we were talking about it afterwards also. In that Boxing Illustrated used to have their own little features at the back of prospect. I think they would call them Prospect of the Month,
Hmm.
and that was Prospects of the Month or whatever it is. And so, when I was a kid and I started following the sport religiously in '95, so back then I was buying Ring magazine specifically, but then I started seeing other ones on the shelf and stuff like that. You see KO all the time. You'd see World Boxing or the Boxing whatever year. You know what I'm saying? Because those two would split off. But then Boxing Illustrated, I don't want to say it was hard to find, but I didn't see it like in the same stores as you would see Ring. Like I would see the Ring at Shaw's, I would see it this place, like every magazine rack. Boxing Illustrated, for instance, I would only see at like maybe like a Barnes and Noble,
Yep.
or I'm dating myself here, like Walden Books or something,
Yeah.
you
No,
know?
we're from this. We grew up in the same
Oh
area,
yeah,
and
of course, yeah,
We had
yeah,
Walden
Stop and
Books actually out in my way too.
yeah. But Stop and
yep,
Shop would have KO and Ring pretty consistently, and you'd be
yeah.
lucky if they had a third mag.
Exactly. And Boxing Illustrated would probably be at one of those bookstores. Or if you went to like a major, like a one of those, I don't even think these exist anymore, like an actual magazine store. Like there was a magazine store in Fairhaven, right when you cross the bridge, right on the,
Wow.
all it did was just sell magazines in there. And they had every boxing magazine you could imagine. It was like heaven when I would go there once a month.
Crazy.
But
Crazy.
so this one is from September of 1995. I've had it since I was a kid. That's why it's completely torn to shit, as you can see. But all right, these are usually in the back. All right, got them. And here's the thing about this magazine. All right, they would have the thing about prospects, but they were always like we were talking before the show about how Ring Magazine would have questionable people that they would showcase. Boxing Illustrated in the 90s is even like more so on some wild, like the most obscure guys you could possibly imagine are the ones who are being featured on this. I mean, sure, it's
Okay.
cool they get some ink, but like, and there was always three of them. So here we go.
All right.
Number one, Craig Kid Kitka. I barely remember that name.
Craig
That's
Kitka.
Kikta.
Uh, oof. I have no idea who this guy is.
wow. If you and what's funny is, oh wow, if you
Wow.
yeah, it's like if you Google his name,
Holy crap.
the first thing is like not like the first result is not even it's like one of the fight he had with Rodney Jones. You got to go down a while for his for his own shit. It was just pretty funny.
Yeah,
Okay.
I have no idea. Apparently, he's from Youngstown, Ohio. When he was featured in this magazine, he was 10-0 with six knockouts.
I feel like
Uh,
just being from Youngstown at a certain point could like just like automatically you're on the radar.
yeah. Apparently, he had sparred with Harry Arroyo and Ray Mancini. So, can't tell you what happened to him. Do we know what his record ended up being?
Yeah, I have it up. 16-2 with 8 knockouts. He won the very fringy IBC Continental welterweight title over a journeyman named Swift, who was like a Oklahoma guy. And then
Mhm.
he lost to another journeyman that would. These are both Sean Gibbons guys, by the way, that would just pop up at random shows. But Verdell Smith ended up
Yes.
stopping him in 8 rounds.
Oh,
So, so he lost to Verdell Smith, and then he got knocked out in the first round by Rodney Jones, and then he called it a career. So, yeah, 16-2.
yeah, if you're gonna lose to Verdell Smith, and me and Pat, I think, brought him up on one of the some other show one time, or his name got brought up at least. But like,
Hmm.
he was a journeyman, a good fighter, probably better than his record. But at the same time, if you can't beat him, then I
No,
don't know what to tell you. Next
he was.
guy, what?
Yeah, no, he was just one of those guys that fought under a fake name, and
Oh,
we didn't figure that out for many years. Like BoxRec existed for a few years before we figured out it was Verdell Smith fighting under a fake name for losses. So, I just wanted to
next
point
one.
that out.
Excuse me. Super middleweight and soon to be light heavyweight, Chris, Mr. Showtime Johnson.
Was he the Canadian guy? The Canadian
Yeah,
Olympian?
he's the one that like Antonio Tarver almost
Oh
decapitated.
God, yeah, he almost killed him in that fight
Yeah.
in ESPN. That's not a bad pick. I feel like he was a good amateur.
No, he was. He was. He was a highly touted prospect, really good amateur, and things started falling apart for him when I believe Harold Graham was making his comeback, and then he fought him, and everyone thought that Johnson would beat him, and Graham ended up beating the shit out of him. And then
A
that was
tough
kind of it.
loss.
Yeah,
Yeah, I just remember he fought on a Sugar Ray Leonard card against Tarver, and then Tarver just had him slumped in the corner and just brained him with a combo in like like the last round of the fight. It was just a brutal, brutal ending. Almost, yeah,
yeah.
he almost died, like you
That ended
said.
his career, didn't it? Yeah, that ended his career.
Oh yeah, yeah, no, he was. I don't think they would have. I think he had to go to the hospital, and I don't think he was ever going to be cleared again.
Sure. All right,
Yeah,
and the last one, this one's gonna make you guys laugh. Skipper Kelp.
Skipper, commentator,
Yeah.
Skipper Cal. I say Zufa. We're not getting. Is anyone here getting a Zufa paycheck for this? No. Yeah, Skipper, former Olympian. I
Yeah.
think people forget that he was part of the '92 team. I want to say.
Yeah, so um already
I
at
think
this point too, compared to the other guys, like
80, yeah, 92.
It'd have been 88
Maybe
probably.
88. I could be wrong. It was 88. I apologize.
he
It was
was born.
88
Well,
or
it says
90.
he was born in 1970, so yeah, probably.
Yeah, it'd probably be 88.
I can't
Um,
yeah.
at this point, he was 20-2 with 14 knockouts. Uh,
With top rank, I want to say maybe at that point.
doesn't say.
I feel like he was signed by Top Rank out the gate because I remember entering in updating a bunch of his fights and they were all in like Vegas casinos and
Mhm.
they were all like really shitty Vegas casinos too, like Arizona Charlie's and the Sands.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like
All of his fights were in Nevada, so at this point, except for one in Mississippi randomly, and getting
yeah,
knocked out by Bronco McCartan in California.
I want to say he was with Top Rank and then I know he lost to Raul Marquez because they did the Olympian versus Olympian fight.
And he did have a good win. I remember watching this with my dad on Tuesday Night Fights. He fought Adrian Stone. Remember Stone who
Got
well
knocked up by
everybody was
Shane
getting
Mosley.
yeah. But like before he got decapitated by Mosley, he was a good fighter. He lost to Jesse James Hughes, but he made for fun fights. And Kelp beat
Mosley
him.
killed him. Yeah. Kelp beat him. Yeah, I was gonna say. Well, Adrian Stone's chin was always a problem.
Yeah, exactly. But
Good call.
so
Good
yeah, those were
call.
the three prospects that were featured in
Okay.
1995. So
Uh, decent rare. I like that they have multiple guys in there. That's actually what the ring should have been doing, in my opinion, instead of focusing on one fighter. At least do two or three.
sure.
So interesting names.
Well, and Skipper had the card in that 91 KO set too. So I
Yes, he
mean,
did.
hey,
Oh yeah,
if
yeah,
you weren't
yeah.
super
Good
familiar with
catch.
his work, you might have at least seen the
88,
fucking
yeah.
card.
Should have known he was an 88 Olympian. Of course, 91 KO card. I have it.
Oh yeah, that's a good point too. Yeah.
Didn't connect it. Didn't connect it.
Well,
That's
apparently, looking at his BoxRec wiki, he had won. He's a multiple time national Golden Gloves champion. I mean,
yeah, he was a
and then
really I remember
1980s
being
when that still meant some shit.
yes, you actually had to beat like a lot of different guys to get a Gold Gloves title, and it was very hard to do it back then. Absolutely. Because you also had to
Oh,
win
you
in
had
the
to go play
regional
six or
level.
seven fights sometimes.
Yeah, and then you also had to qualify for the nationals by winning your regional Golden Gloves. And
Yep.
back then, the regional Golden Gloves were also stacked. I mean, you could talk to Real Oliveira about how New England Golden Gloves were a lot better back in the
Yeah.
day.
Oh,
Adam?
Chicago, Detroit.
Yeah, it was if you won your regional Golden Gloves, it
Kansas
was a big.
City.
That was also a pretty big deal. Yeah, New York, obviously,
The
like
silver.
those
They had
meant.
silver gloves too, in like New Jersey and shit.
Yeah.
I mean,
So that mattered a lot more back then. I can't stress that enough. That amateur boxing is way thinner now than it used to be. Like way thinner. It's yeah, unfortunately.
I
yeah,
apologize.
and I mean, like, there's probably a whole host of reasons for that, but that's
Well,
its own
that's just
episode.
all.
Yeah.
Kids are putting the video games down.
These kids, they're the tablet generation, can't
I
fucking
lost
stand it. Get off
I
my fucking lawn.
lost half my gym during COVID.
I lost my lung and my daughter
I didn't get
to the
vaccinated.
tablet, to the tablet. All right, so I got August of 98. All right.
Cool.
Let's see. I had it open, but let's see. We got light heavyweight Kenny Bowman, courtesy of Joe
Oh,
Wow.
Santoliquito.
okay. Kenny Bowman.
It's a deep cut.
He had a lot of wins. I remember it. And then he lost, and he lost a lot of fights after that. That's how I always can picture guys' records in my brain. I'm always like, I've read that this guy's record in back in
I
the
have
day.
to read this sentence. I heard the couple sentences. So his mother was deaf, Bowman thought. That idiot had no right making funny sounds.
Hell of a line.
I know what story you're talking about. They said that Bowman was on the bus with his mom and that some guy was trying to make fun of her and Bowman started swinging on him, right?
It's just so like the way that it's worded. I'm just like, what are we doing? But anyway, that's
Yeah,
a great
it's
entry. It is a great
crazy.
entry. Kenny
It's
Bowman,
crazy.
that is.
That's crazy. What year was that written? What year was that magazine,
Yeah,
Pat?
August 98.
So that was right after he beat Murky Sosa. It has to be.
Oh, that's right.
That's the
Go.
only reason why he would be featured on that. That was like a bit. Sosa when did Sosa lose the to what's his face? Roy Jones.
Uh,
96 or so?
that was probably before
Yeah,
It
that.
had to
definitely
be.
before that.
Yeah, it had to be.
Yeah, I want to say it was 96, 97. I feel like.
But
But
yeah, Sosa was still like he was still on the fringes of being a contender at that point. You know what I mean? Like he was still making for fun fights, and he would make for fun fights after that too, especially
he
like the
would.
Thomas Tate fight.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah. He was a little bit. He really wasn't until the James Butler fight when you're like, oh man, he should not be fighting anymore. It was
yeah, he was completely washed by then. Man, he
really
was already
washed.
starting to like fall. This was the fight that
Yeah.
he was falling off on because he was still. I don't know if he was NABF champ or whatever, but he was, he was being featured on Tuesday Night Fights, and he was supposed to beat Bowman because he said Bowman had a an inflated record, like a lot of wins on it, but
Fairly inflated. So to give
extremely.
you an idea though, like why the mag sometimes the magazine system is a little wonky, right? Is because that comes out in August in the August '98 issue. You said, Pat.
Yeah.
He got knocked out by Derek Harmon in June '98. So imagine the Derek Harmon knockout loss has probably just happened as that magazine's coming out to the stand. So like. Listen, guys. I love magazines. I have a fondness for that stuff, but it is like as a person now, it's like I get why this didn't really work so well back in the day. You're reading about a guy that it's already so outdated.
Well, well, and of course, like the one of the things that they're talking about in here is needing a light heavyweight star to contend with Roy Jones.
Wasn't gonna be
So
him.
no, and
It wasn't gonna
they
be
were
him.
going, yeah, they were trying to push a lot of dudes into that territory, and it was just not to
Well,
be for just about any of them. And I mean, naturally, of course,
yeah.
but
He
I
was being
mean,
he, it was a short list of guys at that point that Roy hadn't beaten or could feasibly, he was never gonna fight Darius. So it's like need to find some guys. Gotta hype up some names.
yeah, dude, it's a I don't I like I said before, I don't know how they choose this. I don't know who chooses it, but still it's good to like,
Uh
get the new guys and the new names and all that type of stuff. I will say, having gone through the ridiculous stacks of magazines and stuff like that, and something that I have noticed, and also having to like look through magazines for results and stuff like that, because there are certain fights where and it has nothing to do with BoxRec or any other record keeping system, Wikipedia, anybody who's writing anything about the fights. But there are simply just some fights that are like really historic fights where I'm like, dude, I need more than that. Like that's like a sentence or two. I need to know if there's a description of what actually happened. And so I'll actually look for,
yeah,
like descriptions in the ring and shit like that and blah blah blah. Of course, that's a lot easier to do now with archive and all that type of shit. But having gone through so many, there were eras where they got it down to like, it was really some fights they got down to like a month and a half. Like they cut it down pretty good, but that was also in eras where clearly the boxing was like far more important culturally, you know what I'm saying? And at
sure.
this point, I just don't know that you can justify it. It's so
I remember
tough to keep up.
Yeah, I just remember the mags being really out of date towards when I stopped subscribing, like the mid 2000s, like 20. Yeah, probably when I went to college around like 05, 06. I think probably stopped subscribing. And
There's
like
a
you said,
couple
it was
stretches
just
where it's like 4 or 5 month
you're just
lag,
like,
dude.
I don't want to read about a fight that I already know about because the internet told me about it or I saw it on TV. Yeah, it was just unfortunately just the interest level went down.
I'll tell you though, like a quick thing in terms of like deadlines and trying to put it out there and whatever. Um, Steve Farhood, an absolute saint among writers and just boxing personalities in general, told me an interesting story when Salvador Sanchez passed away. Because I think Steve said, well, that happened in September. I don't know. He said he was out somewhere or whatever it may be, or he was somewhere. And the editor got in touch with him. They already put the magazine to bed, and they were like, "Yo, we just got word Salvador Sanchez was killed in a car accident. We need to do something." And so, like, they just ran and somehow got it, like, where they couldn't put a full on tribute to him in the magazine. And see, you know what magazine I'm talking about, right? It's like the cover of him, like the really close up photo, and it says like R.I.P. to Elegance or something like that. And but they were able to. He was like, we were able to at least acknowledge that he had passed and put that in the magazine while we covered his fight with Azuma Nelson because that's what was being covered. is that they had the full length feature of the Nelson fight, and then they just put like edit Sanchez, blah 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 blah. Blah. By
Yeah.
the way, we'll give you a an actual tribute next issue or something like that.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's crazy that they were able to get it out before the publishing deadline. That's
Yeah.
that's the thing. Yeah, back then you had to get stuff in by a certain time and get it to the printer. Like, yeah, these kids don't get these anymore. The stresses of a magazine publisher.
Absolutely not.
All right. Do you want me to pull one up, Pat?
Go
I
for
don't
it.
know if we're going in order or
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't really care, but whatever. That's cool.
yes, I don't want
It's
to overstep.
chaos.
But
Fucking Lord of the Flies. Let's go.
these
Bro,
96
we're just winging it. Oh,
these
that's a
90
great cover. I
these
love that.
96 rings are so funny because pretty much every other issue, and Aris was with me when I bought these a stack of these. This was when we were at the Hall of Fame together from the
Yeah.
magazine, the guy that sells all the magazines. Or no, it was a different guy. It was a guy that was selling like a stack of years. So I bought like all the 96 ones, but all the 96 ones are pretty much just like Tyson related articles. And like, he's not out of jail at this point, but it's like, Bo's the man for now. And it's like, but can he beat Tyson? It's like, wow, dude, Tyson's still in
Yeah.
jail at this point.
Who's
And I
next
think
for Tyson?
yeah,
Yeah, every
yeah. They're like,
single fucking issue.
yeah. Like Lennox, is he man enough for Tyson? So it's like, man, Tyson's just fresh out of jail here, just beating McNeely. Really had not. I don't even think he fought Buster Mathis at this point yet. So it's like, oh my god. So the new face here, I'm gonna pull this one up here. Oh, okay. Lightweight Billy Irwin from Canada.
All
All
right.
right.
Another Friday Night Fights favorite.
Was gonna say, was he who's was I was gonna say, was the ESPN certain matchmaker feeding these names? But yeah, Billy Irwin, another guy that kind of like Teddy Reed, I think you could kind of draw some parallels, is that he was good enough to fight for a world title, and he was good enough to get ranked, but he could never get over the hump quite a bit. But he was a decent little fighter.
Yeah, he was prominently. I mean, like whenever there's like a popular Canadian fighter making rounds, he'll get featured. I mean, hell, remember we were talking about Dale Brown, Pat, on the first episode of New Faces. So,
Oh,
but
Dale Brown, yeah.
yeah, Cowboy. Um, but Irwin, like, I remember he was featured in that magazine, and then soon after that, he lost to a guy named uh, something Daniel Atta, some shit like that. I don't know, but like he lost a decision, and I remember just reading about it in one of the Boxing Illustrateds. But like you said, he was a strong guy. He was a good fundamentally, and he had power and everything. But like he was just kind of crude and very slow, and could be outboxed.
That's why
And so like
Spatafor ate him up very easily in a title
yeah, like
fight.
it wasn't even close. Was that on
One,
HBO? I had to watch it,
you
right?
want to say it was on either Friday Night Fights or HBO. I know that he had the title fight with Juan Diaz that was on an ESPN pay-per-view when ESPN did those pay-per-views at top main events very briefly, and
That's
Juan
right.
Diaz just walked right through him. But like Dale Brown, he's a guy that looked, all these Canadian guys back then, I swear they all looked 10 years older than they really were. Like I remember Billy Irwin looked like he was like 45, like
Yeah,
balding,
he just looked like the quintessential like dad.
Yeah, exactly. Like Dale Brown too. You're like, these guys don't look like really athletic or like, boxers necessarily, but he was, Billy Irwin fought a lot in the Blue Horizon. He was
That's right.
with
Yeah, he was Peltz,
Peltz.
wasn't he?
Yeah, Peltz wrote about him in his book, and I think that he was pissed off because Rick Glazer stole Billy Irwin away from him because they had a verbal agreement, not like a written thing or no, yeah, or yeah, I think that was the whole deal. And like, if you ask, and I remember
Glazed.
like Glazer hates Peltz for that specific reason because there's like some beef over the Billy Irwin. I guess I don't really know the whole story. I don't really, frankly, care.
All people to be fighting over.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't care. But I know that there was some beef over that. But anyway, yeah, I remember Billy Irwin fought a lot in like when I first started watching boxing, Billy Irwin was definitely on TV quite a bit. But yeah, like kind of like a Teddy Reed type, just couldn't quite get over the hump. Yeah.
Well, honestly, dude, his like, late 90s and early 2000s, BoxRec just going up there is a bunch of names ranging from kind of like fringe contenders to dudes who were like just on the cusp of
Hmm.
like, a world title type of shit. The dude you were talking about, Aris, David Teta, that dude,
Yeah.
not Daniel Atta, but that dude
Oh,
was
excuse me.
gone.
Yeah, David.
Yeah, I mean, that dude was Ghanaian, and I remember for a while that dude was supposed to be, there's always like the next Azuma Nelson or something like that, and of course there never is. But that's because it's Zuma Nelson, but Ahmed Santos, Chucky T, Charles
Oh,
Tornovsky, bro, that guy
Chucky
was fucking
T.
legendary on the Philadelphia circuit and kind of East Coast
Wow.
circuit. Let's see, I remember John Bailey. I
From West
remember
Yes, the
Virginia.
Macho
Yeah,
Midget
from West Virginia. Yeah, yeah, another Friday Night Fights guy.
Moises
and Joe Dirt.
Pedrosa. That dude was on Friday Night Fights a bunch of time. Doran Spivey also on Friday Night Fights a bunch of times.
Oh yeah.
Like Lou Bizarro with the next generation of the Bizarros from Erie, PA. Fucking, and then of course got his, like you said, his career closed out by Juan Diaz. Just got slapped silly, unfortunately. Like many of those lightweights who were like too small or didn't have enough power to keep that little pudgy monster off of them.
Oh man. All right, I got another Boxing Illustrated. This one is one of my favorite covers. If you can see right there, I've always loved it. Like I remember seeing that as a kid, and I was like, "Yo, this shit's dope." You know what I mean? It was just it's from 1996, and all right, let me see. Very good, man. Okay, and see again, random guys, but people like hardcores like us and people that listen to the show will remember. And now we're down to two, not three.
Okay.
First, first one, lightweight Joel Perez.
Okay. He
Yeah,
was a
from
world title
Texas.
challenger, I feel like from Texas.
Yeah.
He got crushed on like HBO or something like that. And who did he fight? I have to look him up now, but he got absolutely waffled on a HBO one time and like in a round.
Yeah.
I remember I'm looking, sorry, it's gonna bother me. He got knocked
Was
out
it
by
the
Miguel
Cotto fight?
Cotto. It was the Cotto fight. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Cotto just absolutely walked
Oh
her.
yeah, that was the co-feature for Mayweather Sosa.
Yes, 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 yeah. What a night, what a memorable night of boxing. But yeah, I remember Cotto just dusted him like nothing. Like
Yeah.
absolutely nothing.
Perez was another guy that couldn't get over the hump. I was when I was a kid, and I would read about whether it was the New Face of Ring magazine or these prospects and Boxing Illustrated, or anytime I read about somebody new, and then I would randomly see them on TV, I would get kind of hyped. I was like, "Oh, I read about this guy. I'm going to see them for the first time," you know. And the first time I got to see Perez fight, I remember was on a random. It wasn't like an HBO pay per view or Showtime. It was like some off brand pay per view or whatever. But he was fighting Jesse James Leija, and it was supposed to be like a crossroads fight where, all right, Perez is undefeated. If he beats Leija, then he goes on to bigger and better things. But if he can't beat Leija, well then that's it. You know what I mean? And Leija beat him, I think, by like split decision. Then they had a rematch, and Leija beat him again, and like that kind of became like the reoccurring thing with him is that like anytime he would step up, he would lose, and then it became more emphatic. If that make like as the years went on, culminating and then Cotto just beating the hell out of him.
Yeah, I was just saying the only fights of his that I saw when I was actively watching, like I had started watching boxing, was when it was when Cotto beat him up and then Juan Diaz beat him up on Showtime. So I saw the back end of Joel Perez. Unfortunately, I didn't really get to see him in his prime or when he was a contender.
But when he was featured in this, his record was 19-0 and 9 knockouts. His managers were Lawrence Elliott and Vincent Ruiz. I don't know who those guys are. And
Yeah.
but his promoter, Ron Weathers, and his agent, Bob Spagnola.
Oh, Bob Spagnola's still around.
Yeah.
Shout out to Bob. Bob was who did he Bob still does like I know he's not like as active, but I saw he does like work corners still and trains like he was in part of Stephanie Hahn's team and that and will probably be again in the Holly Holm rematch coming up in a couple months, but he's still down in Texas doing his thing. Legend,
Yeah,
absolute
he
legend.
used to he used to commentate for Cedric's cards way back
Yes,
in
he did.
yeah.
Yeah, he used to
Um,
he used to commentate for this commercial company called Kingfisher Boxing that would be on. My parents first got digital cable. It would pop up randomly on like the Sunshine Network or something like that, and so I was getting like random fights in Louisiana and Texas that I would sometimes tape and trade them, and he was always the one of the commentators. So shout out to Bob Spagnola.
well, and then the next guy, another person from Youngstown, Ohio, surprisingly.
Oh,
Yeah.
surprising. Yeah.
Ken the Cobra Sigurani.
I was gonna say, I was like, is it the guy that deal Chavez beat up? Like, is it
Yeah.
Ken? Yeah, it's Ken. Oh man. He fought Chavez on what the undercard of like Buster Douglas
Yeah, one of
versus
those papers.
Aris,
Oh, that
I want to say.
I know who you're talking about. I had to see this photo. Now that I see his photo, I'm like, that guy, I remember his face. Okay.
He fought
He fought
Chavez.
Camacho right after that.
He
Yeah.
did.
He fought Chavez on that weird pay-per-view with Savarese and Douglas. And Chavez at that point, I think it was
Chavez was already past it. Like that
he was
was
past it, but I don't know if he had lost to Willie Wise yet past it, but he was getting close.
Mhm.
I can't remember if he lost to Willie Wise yet, but he was definitely past at that point. I want to say he had lost the deal. He had quit on the stool against De La Hoya at that point for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. He hadn't had the second loss to
Yeah,
Deloya
they had
yet.
the second loss yet, but he quit on the stool. Yeah,
Yeah.
so he was fans were already the aura was pretty much gone at that point. They were just like, let's get the gas back in the tank for one more run, brother. But the aura completely gone.
But Sigurani, he was getting a little bit of ink back then because this wasn't the only magazine I remember reading about him.
Really?
Yeah. Pretty
Huh.
sure he was featured. I don't know if he was a new face in ring, but I know he was featured in something else because there was a story accompanying it, talking about how he had beef with Camacho, kind of in a similar realm of how Fernando Vargas hated Oscar De La Hoya. You know, De La Hoya laughed at him and made fun of him as whatever he's supposed to do, while Vargas was stuck in fucking snow or something on the side of the road, right? But so but Siggy Randy, I don't remember the story exactly because it's been years since I read it. But for what I can remember is that like I think he went up to Camacho when he was a kid and asked for an autograph, and Camacho completely snubbed him and was like, "Get away from me" or some shit like that. It was just like a total
Hell
dickhead.
yeah. Get his ass, Hector.
And so all he said is that when he was a pro, he wanted to get revenge and fight him, and then when they ended up fighting, Camacho just like slapped him up
Yeah,
still.
I was gonna say, yeah, Hector probably in full party boy mode, barely training, ends up still winning the fight, even though he's like 30. I'm sure he's in his late
This
30s.
was like the late '90s when this happened, so I'm sure.
Oh,
Yeah,
full party boy Camacho at that point. Not even you're like, why is this guy like not no semblance of any direction in his career, just getting paid to fight Midwest guys.
yeah.
Incredible.
This was full on after the Oscar fight, after Sugar,
Oh,
all
Yeah.
that,
He
when
like
just
probably
making
slapped him
appearances.
around and like called him a racial epithet or something.
yep. We don't we're losing our white Midwest guys. Losing our recipes here. Where all these guys go? Where'd the Kens go? They're all
And
gone.
you know the Chavez fight too. And before we move on really quick, that one was funny because if you remember, Chavez was in full on cruise control for like the first 2 rounds. Didn't do shit. You could tell he was bored, didn't want to be there, just going through the motions. And when Chavez does that, it's almost like he's making like especially at this era, Chavez, it's almost like he's making an unwritten pat with you. Like if you don't fuck with me too much, I don't fuck with you too much.
Yeah.
But then I don't know if it was a headbutt or whatever it was, an elbow or some shit. Sigurani got him cut. It was a nasty cut, and Chavez
And
was like, "What the fuck?" And
body shots time.
and
Top
he
of the
was
box.
just like,
Yeah.
he was like, "All right, now I'm gonna kick your ass for this." And this came out
Yeah.
and knocked him out.
Yeah, it's just say you're getting some hooks to the liver, pal.
Yeah, he got so mad. He was just like, "All right, you want to
Uh,
fuck with me? How dare you cut me? I'm not trying to fuck her." Like,
yeah,
yeah,
screwing up my payday, my future world title fight. What the hell?
yeah.
All right, I got a fairly easy one here because frankly, I think I know one of these fighters. So, in the 1968, the February 1968 issue of the Ring, instead of a new faces, they basically just did prospect of the month.
Wow.
But it was prospects for the month, and they went down and had one for each division, which is kind of cool, actually.
Well, I like that. That's awesome.
But that being said, I mean, some of these dudes are fairly random. At heavyweight, there's Eddie Talhami. He was, and at least gives his record, but he was 5-0, 3 KOs. At light heavyweight, Wendell Joseph. That name seems
That
familiar to
that
me,
that name definitely is ringing alarm
but
bells for
but
me.
I couldn't say for certain. 4-0, no knockouts. Middleweight Richard Willis from Houston, 3-0, 3-0-1, three knockouts. Welterweight Julian Tellez. That's the only one that seems really familiar to me. 3-0, I'm sorry, 3-0-1, zero knockouts. Lightweight Arthur Pearson, 7-1, four knockouts. Featherweight Esteban Olvera, 3-1, no knockouts. Bantamweight Antonio Sasarini, 13-1, four knockouts. And flyweight Bill Amos from Zambia, 8-0, 8-0-1, three knockouts. So, like I said, kind of an easy one because I'm like, I don't know who any of those people really are. It doesn't really, none of them truly went on to be, top contenders or anything like that. But still, I kind of like the format of having a list of, each prospect of, I don't know, month or quarter, whatever it is for each actual division. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, Eddie Talami lost to future referee Richard Steele. And Joe Bugner. And it also has in his BoxRec wiki, it does put he was the 1967. Well, it says he was the 1967 Ring Magazine Prospect of the Month. That makes it sound like he was the only one, Pat. Maybe I have to go back and go one of the many
One of the
prospects. One
prospects of the
of,
month.
yeah, all of the prospects of the month. So you weren't the prospect of the month, buddy. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Wendell Joseph ended up 14-13-2. So, and he ended up at heavyweight from it. Okay, but at least he fought Dale Grant, fought old Dale Grant, Carlos De Leon, Carlos Marks, Roy Lee. I mean,
Oh,
Randy Newman. I
you know
mean, but
how
like lost to almost all of them pretty
you
much.
know
But
how you know how Talami probably got in the magazine, Pat? He's fighting on Chris Dundee cards in Miami.
there you go, dude.
And he said, Angelo, put the good word in for my Canadian heavyweight.
Grease in the lane for his
Paul,
fighters.
but yeah, I was gonna say, that makes a lot of sense.
I mean,
Julian
that's how do you think Al
Tellez.
got in? Remember Al Migliorado?
Oh my God, I know, I know
Yeah.
exactly. But same situation, right? All these guys fought on these Chris Dundee shows back in the 70s and the 60s, I'm sure. All were fighter of the month at some point.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't really look like too many of these dudes went on to be at least, not top fighters or anything like that, but still.
I want to give them. I'll say this though, they like went for it. I mean, going they don't the Ring would never, even in the 90s and 2000s, would never put a 3-0 guy in their magazine. They waited, and I will tell you later. I have a rant to go on because some of the names I was shocked how well along in their careers they already were before they got picked, and I'm like, really? Yeah, that's your new face. It should be. He may have had a world title already at that point. And what are we doing here?
I think
Like,
one of them was like I want to say Jermaine Taylor or something like that. And it was like
it's
he
very
got in and
possible.
it was like it must have been like, months before he challenged Hopkins. I was just like, fuck, what really?
Yeah, I might as well just say it. I don't need to be coy, but they put in Amard Kranjic as their new face back in November 2000, and he was already the WBO world champion at that point. Now I know now fans watching this that
New
are a little
face to Americans, I guess.
new face to Americans, but like to be fair, I will definitely understand the argument that the WBO title was not considered a major belt in 2000. Like 100% when I first started watching, I knew the WBO title really didn't, in my opinion, didn't really grab credibility probably until the middleweight tournament with like De La Hoya and Hopkins, and when Bernard's got the four belts at the end, I feel like that's kind of when the WBO started to slide in more as like a recognizable belt. And people were willing to put it in with the big four, but even in like November 2000, it's like considered a second tier title, whatever. But it's like at that point, it's like this guy's already got like a belt. Like people, he's already the belt still meant something a little, was more established than like the IBO title. So I was like, really, we're really like we're going for guys who have belts. Like that's silly. Like, come on. So that always annoyed me. I
Nor
respect going for a 3-0 guys. I'm trying to say.
For sure. Some balls, for sure.
Yeah.
And there were also by that point or around that time, like early 2000s, there were a handful of fighters who were like long-term WBO champions too, or had made a number of defenses. And I'm
Oh
not
yeah.
saying that
Yeah.
automatically means that it was credible, but that being said, that also helped it, I think. But yeah, dude, like it was tough to kind of keep track even then of getting when you start like bringing in WBO and now it's
And
even worse. But
but they would, yeah, you're totally right. They wouldn't acknowledge the WBO, the magazines mostly
Not for
too.
years.
And remember Pat, we were talking about KO posters,
yeah,
and you were like, and you were like, oh, we were talking about the most random ones they would make because KO seemed to make, which to their credit, I found that dope. You know what I mean? They made a poster for literally anybody back then. That was like a champion. But when Leon, I keep on fucking up his name, Leonzo Barber,
yeah.
um, former WBO champion, when he got his KO centerfold, he wasn't posing with a belt, and it just said light heavyweight contender. He was clearly champ at that point. And
Yeah, no, they did not want to talk. Yeah, they didn't really want to acknowledge WBO for a long
yeah,
time.
and so like me and I was talking to Pat about it, and I'm joking. I'm like, I wonder if they like called him beforehand. Oh, you want me to bring the belt? Nah, nah, nah. But keep that home. But champ. Yeah, well, no.
I mean, I get it. It was definitely a second tier belt at that point, but it's like, all right, go for a guy who's like 9-0, 10-0, not like somebody who's gonna eventually fight on HBO in like under
Yeah,
12 months or in
and
a perfect world, but like,
they were trying to do what the IBF got lucked into with Larry Holmes. Holmes dumping the WBC and saying, "All right, I'll take your IBF title." It was a major boost for them.
yep.
And then other people, kind of followed with example after that too. There was some spotty IBF champions in the beginning, like fucking Choo
Very,
Choo out and shit. But like,
very spotty. But yeah, they definitely had more.
yeah, Holmes had a good boost to help them out.
Yes.
WBO, I don't think really had that.
No, they did not. And if you look at some of those early WBO champions, it's like that takes a lot. I mean, even in the early 2000s, a lot of German guys. You're like, oh man, it seems like one or two promoters has all the belts. That's never a good look.
Yeah.
So like I said, it really took them a while to get kind of going.
Also, and the last thing I'll say too is that I remember in a Ring magazine, say like late '80s, they had when Strawweight was just made. Um, Ioka. What was his first name?
Hiroki.
Yeah, Hiroki Ioka.
Hmm.
I want to say I want to say he was one of the first one. I think he was one of the first strawweight champions, right? But I think he was featured, and he didn't even win and he didn't even like they had him as one of the runners up for prospect of the year while he was champion. And I
That's
think
that's yeah, that's
and
that was
I
the
think who ended up winning
yeah.
prospect of the year. I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it was like Engels Pedroza or something like that.
No, it took them all. Yeah, I think that was another just WBC decided to make a new weight class, and that took a long time to stick, but it did.
So,
And
all right,
thank goodness, or else we wouldn't be having dudes like what's that little dude? Fucking little South African dude.
Baby Jake.
What's that? What's that? The little white South African. Fuck. What's
Oh,
that?
Baby Jake.
No. Oh man, I can't remember. He was a couple of years ago. Anyway, we'll move on. I can't remember his name, but he was super fun and
Becky Butler.
Yeah,
yeah, Hecky Butler, dude. I just
Hecky
couldn't
Butler.
remember his
Yeah,
fucking
yeah,
name. There
yeah.
you
I was
go.
like, yeah,
Damn.
Hecky Butler. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he was just a hilarious and funny name, fun fighter. Anyway,
Shout out to Hecky Butler if you're listening.
yeah, nobody else is gonna be bringing that fucking guy up on any podcast. I'll tell you. So,
The Hexecutioner.
yep.
Let's go.
You got another one, Gray? You got another one in the barrel
Yeah,
here?
let me pull up a mag, Pat. Let me get the mag out. I don't want to try to find one that's not 96. Just give me 1 second. I'm trying to be a little interesting here. I guess I'll do this one where James Toney is just all smiles, got his Ring Magazine award.
Like 2004, 2005,
Yeah,
something like that.
2000. This was May 2004 when they were James Toney was back in red hot. Oh man, banger pick, Joe. Cornelius Locke.
Nice.
Another banger, another banger. I want to say Detroit fighter. That probably I feel like lost on a show box. But again, kind of like many of these names we're talking about, just never got quite over the hump. Looking at his box rec now. Okay, his biggest thing was he fought Mikey Garcia in a remember. Wow, featherweight Mikey Garcia. He got stopped in a fight, 11th round in a fight where he was up on one of the scorecards. Surprisingly, so a competitive fight with Mikey Garcia. So he made it all the way to a title eliminator.
Yeah, I'm looking at his record now. Um, but Antonio Escalante, that's a name I've not thought about in forever.
Yeah, Showbot, sorry, a solo boxeo regular, Antonio Escalante. If you were watching Top Rank in the day, he was on a
Uh,
lot, Antonio. He lost to Ponce de Leon. So again, it's very, very, very thematic here. Talking about guys that just never could get over the hump, but they had some.
was he with no, I'm thinking I must be thinking of somebody else. I thought he was with Mayweather Promotions, but then that was the guy that got knocked out by Edner Cherry. And I don't think that's the same person, right?
No, he was with the Vegas. He was with the Vegas guy though, because he was. I remember, like, if you look at his record, he was fighting at the Orleans. So
Mhm.
I don't know who his promoter was, but he wasn't fighting in Michigan really. He was fighting mostly in Vegas,
Okay, yeah.
and they were building his record up. And then, yeah, pretty much he just I think his big thing is he beat Orlando Cruz, who was on the Mayweather Marquez undercard.
Mhm.
And that got him into position to fight Ponce de Leon, who I believe he fought on the it looks here like he fought him on the Mayweather Mosley undercard. I don't know if that made the pay-per-view or not. I can't remember, but it was one of the four bouts on the show.
No,
So,
it did. I remember that fight. I had to work it.
okay. So
Yeah.
he got on pay-per-view a few times and then eventually fought Mikey Garcia, and then Mikey Garcia stopped him in a pretty competitive fight, I guess, or according to the scorecards. I won't lie, I don't really remember that fight at all. I
No.
I, I
Well, I
believe it
mean,
occurred.
it looks like also kind of a recurring theme with a number of these fighters, obviously not all of them, but I mean, a number of these fighters were highly successful or at least had some sort of big win or something like that in the amateurs. And in Cornelius Locke's case, he was the U.S. national champion in 1997. And he beat Rocky Juarez, who was a
Oh,
hot prospect, or in a hot amateur prospect, that is.
yeah,
And
yeah.
so,
So
I mean,
he probably would have was like the number two guy and probably would have made the Olympic team if Rocky Juarez didn't exist.
Mhm.
well, and what wound up happening was he turned around and lost to Rocky Juarez twice, including at the two in the 2000 national championships. He had a walkover.
There you
So
go. There you go.
that's it.
There you go.
But I mean, but that's also unfortunately just kind of the calling card of boxing. And I mean, it meant a lot more, I feel like, in other eras or in other decades. If you were highly successful as an amateur, you'd be far more likely to be successful as a pro. But that being said, it was never a guarantee. And it also, I think now in current era, just it might not mean anything sometimes.
I've watched some of these golden. You go look at the past golden national Golden Gloves winners, especially at the higher weight classes.
Uh,
You'll shake your head. I'm not gonna name names. I don't want to be a jerk, but just you'll shake your head if you see the list. That's all I'm gonna say.
Even at the Olympics, dude, even at that level, some of the dudes like at heavyweight have been like, ooh.
Woo!
Mm.
You anti-Jollof is what you're telling me? I'm just kidding. Is he carries another guy to a 10 round decision?
I
I
mean,
get.
didn't Wolfgram win a silver medal?
Oh, Pio Wolfgram, baby. I was just watching a fight of his last night, Aris. Oh my
Legend.
God. Hell yeah. America Presents snatched him up. Like we got
Yeah, that's what I'm about to say. I
our
remember he was always on Fox Sports all the time, wasn't he?
yeah, it was like, oh, we got a 300-pound heavyweight. Let's go. Yeah, yeah. God, what a name.
Wolfgram.
Well, there were like right there in that kind of like 90s to like 2000s transition, there were a handful of like Pacific Islander heavyweights who were either Samoan, Tongan, from like just a handful of places in the Pacific Islands that they were pushing. And I mean, hey, good, I'm all for it. But unfortunately, David Tua got about as far as any of them did.
True.
To a man himself.
Not Toya or whatever. Remember him? There was a guy named like Tui Toyoya or something like that. Like another.
Oh, did he fight like Tommy Morrison and get knocked out?
Yeah, he fought a bunch of guys that got knocked out. I think he fought David Tua at one point and got knocked out too. I might be wrong.
Oh, Jesus.
But all right, we're going back 45 years on this one, December 1981.
Okay.
And another iconic cover that I always loved has the hearts with Sugar Ray Robinson and Sugar Ray Leonard on it. So let's see.
Two sides of the same card. Genius. Genius.
Okay. Well, Randy Gordon wrote this new face just to give you a heads up.
Speaking of genius, let's go.
Help me, help.
Uh, hmm. oh, all right. So the first name, Mario Miranda, featherweight.
All
Yeah.
right.
So Mario Miranda, if boxing fans from back in the day will remember that name because he was from Colombia, tall and lanky as fuck, like a really tall, lanky, abnormally bigger than the average guy in that division, right, Pat or Gray? You guys
I
remember?
mean,
Yeah, like he
yeah, I would
was,
say for featherweight, 5'9", 5'10", that's pretty tall.
and not only that, like there wasn't any footage of him from what I remember, like reading about it, because I'm going to get into why, he kind of intertwines it with history, but like initially, he was one of those people that were people were reading about, but they were like, it was probably getting like over, it was like the hype was getting built up than what it was because there was no footage. Oh man, he's like over 6 feet tall. He breaks bricks with his hands. He does this. He does that. Like there was a lot of hype with Miranda, and so he was scheduled to fight Salvador Sanchez initially before Sanchez's untimely death. He was the original opponent. I don't know if he was sick or whatever it was, but he fell out, and that's when Nelson got the shot, and you know everything happened the way it did. And so he got scheduled after that to fight Juan Laporte, who was scheduled to fight Salvador Sanchez after the Nelson fight. Sanchez passes away, so they have excuse me, the vacant title fight. I believe it was, yeah, it was at MSG because that was that poster, the yellow with the yellow background on it, and it was called a tribute to Salvador Sanchez. And I have that poster. It's like Sanchez is in the back of it, like a photo of him, and then you have Laporte and Miranda. And Miranda put up a decent fight in that one, but like the whatchamacallit, the class shone through with Laporte soon afterwards. Like, I mean, Laporte was one of those guys that was always kind of hot and cold. But when he was on, he was on. Like he gave everybody fits. I think he beat Chavez when they fought. He knocked the hell out of Rocky Lockridge. If he wasn't fouled 18 bajillion times against Eusebio Pedroza, there's a good chance he could have won that fight. And gave Sanchez a good fight too, even though he was outclassed. And he always said too that he learned a lot in that fight. And they became friends afterwards too. But yeah, that was Miranda. I don't know if you guys want to add anything to that. But
Uh,
I mean, he
no.
did a pretty good job of summing it up,
yeah.
Yeah,
honestly.
I don't have much to add there.
I mean, I don't know really what happened with his career post Laporte, because I don't have his box rec up, but that was like the whole thing. There was just like a lot of hype and myth around him, and then when he finally showed up, he got stopped and kind of faded after that. This other guy, and his photo is absolutely fucking hilarious. I'm not even gonna front. I wish I could show it, but like you can really see it. But a middleweight named Mark Frazie, Frazie.
Oh, wow. I feel like I feel like I've heard that name before.
Yeah, and just he looks like a Mark Frazie.
Oh my God, it's another Ohio guy.
Is he really?
Yeah. Oh, he died last year. And I think I
Uh,
put I put in his death date. That's why I'm like, this is familiar. Yeah, he fought okay, so he fought
Oh, it's
in the
Ohio's
80s.
golden boy. Okay.
Yeah, he fought all the guys he lost to are names you will all recognize. He lost to Alex Ramos, he lost to Bobby Chez, Vinny Curto, and the Shamrock Express Chris Reed. So again, probably a guy that couldn't good probably beat everybody up on the regional scene, but he couldn't really get it going when he
yeah.
at a certain level clearly.
His first pro loss was to Wilfred Scipion.
Oh, well, there you go.
I
Yeah,
mean, it
yeah,
goes back a little bit, is my point. And
yeah, 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 yeah.
the
Yeah.
only thing I was going to add before to the Mario Miranda thing was he got injured. That's what derailed the Salvador Sanchez fight. It was an injury, and so that's why he went with Nelson. It was kind of last minute.
Yep.
But yeah, apart from that, I mean, he had a couple of pretty solid wins over Villasana and Rigoberto Riasco ahead of like to get the Salvador Sanchez fight, that is. But
Mhm.
still, that was about it. Anyway, that's all.
Cool.
All right. I got one for you guys. I wanted to pull up my birth year, but they didn't have a new face that year, so I had to go to the next month after. So July 1986. I feel like this is again a common theme here, and it's like if you were good, listen, you got a little buzz in like New Jersey and Pennsylvania, and you were cranking off some wins, and you were making noise in the gym. They just love to write about you in Ring Magazine because this is another one where I'm like, this guy was making some buzz, but we'll talk about what happened after. But Kevin Watts from Pleasantville,
Hockey
New
Kevin
Jersey,
Watts?
not Killer Kevin Watts. So there's
Okay.
so not there's
I was
different.
about to say, because that would have been a really crazy new faces.
No, not cocky Kevin Watts, unfortunately.
Yeah,
But
that would have made no
killer.
sense at all.
Yeah, I would say no, cocky Kevin Watts. No, killer Kevin Watts.
That
I
dude,
know
like, there's like
cocky.
four people in the world who even know who that is, you
Cocky
know?
Kevin Watts was a white guy, right? You talking about? Yeah, cocky
Yeah.
Kevin
Yeah.
Watts.
Didn't Paulie beat the shit out of him?
Yes. He. Oh my God, dude. All right, don't get me derailed too much. But cocky
I'm sorry.
Kevin Watts, I watched him play on like New England, like local New England TV, and he was talking so much crap before the fight, and he just got completely wrecked. Like, I wish I could
That
remember
was
who
like
the
his
opponent
calling
was.
card.
But he talked so much garbage, and I wish I somewhere in my parents' basement maybe there's a tape with that fight on it I can show you guys one day. But oh, it was so brilliant. But no, this was Killer Kevin Watts, who I believe might have gotten a like the first Browns boxing card set. I believe he might be on that set actually because it was mostly Philly and New Jersey fighters. But he started off 17-1 and was making some noise, really only on the regional level. He was still like an 8-round fighter or so, but he runs into Frank Tate and loses, right? He runs into Tyro Frazier, held to a draw, loses, fights Michael Nunn for the NABF title and loses. Comes back and his biggest win probably was he beat Tony Thornton to win the USBA championship, but then he runs right into Steve Collins. So we can kind of see the theme here is that he's good enough to win the NABF USBA title. That's a lot of these new faces are able to
Hey,
grab that
beat up
belt.
John Scully, though.
I, they could beat those kind of guys. Yeah, he beat Sean Scully up probably. I'm sure that was televised. So he was able to at least win and get ranked and win that title and beat up a few names. But again, it was the Michael Nunns and the Steve Collinses of the world. When you start fighting Hall of Famers or borderline Hall of Famers, it wasn't gonna happen. But yeah, interesting name. I saw him pop up. I'm like, oh, okay, little 14-1 record in New Jersey, and that's people start rubbing their hands.
I mean, I'll at least give him this. If you look at all these names, apart from that first loss, Frank Tate undefeated, Michael Nunn undefeated, Steve Collins undefeated. So I mean, it's not like he was taking on, even at the end of his career, Ernest Mateen, who was a decent cruiserweight at one time, was undefeated at that point. So give him credit. He's at least taken on some dudes who were like prospects and stuff like that.
They were grooming him to fight. They were hyping him up as a future Hagler opponent in the magazine. They're just trying to, again, kind of like Roy, right? They were probably like anybody we can get that's from the big boxing area. We gotta hype this guy up. So I can see why they probably put Watts in their magazine. Makes sense.
Well, and I
Saying a
mean,
few Hagler
on,
opponents wild.
honestly, dude, like you're probably not really exaggerating for people listening or watching, going like, dude, he's probably just making jokes or whatever. I mean, this is a long and storied tradition of promoters and their PR teams and
Oh
stuff like
yeah,
stuff
yeah,
like that reaching
yeah.
out to magazines and being like, hey, I got a guy. You know what I mean? And it doesn't have to be like anybody's
We
bribing anything. It doesn't have to be anything.
no,
It just
I
has
get
to be
people.
somebody's friend.
I mean, we get at BoxRec, we get reached out to occasionally for like, hey, can you hype this guy up on your socials, put this guy on your front page? Like, yeah, that's just part of the
That's
game, man.
normal. Yeah, that's just
Very normal.
business.
Very, very normal. Absolutely.
So anyway, that's normal shit just for anybody like thinking that you're fucking around. That being said, I got a
Hmm.
good one here, and I mean, okay, good two actually. I didn't realize there
Oh,
were two. I pulled out an extremely classic cover. I just grabbed a stack. This thankfully happened to be in it, but I mean, one of the greatest covers of all time on the ring, no question.
oh,
Marvin
that's a great
Hagler in
cover.
a
That's a great
motherfucking
cover.
superhero getup,
We'll never
and
have
this
cover.
shit's
We'll
in
never
like
have cover. We'll never have covers like that again.
and
By
it's
the way,
like fantastic like shit. I don't even know how I got this. It's in like ridiculous shape.
nah, it doesn't have Sora AI So, and can't use
Yeah.
it these days.
Yeah, and I haven't even gotten
Or-
any like semen stains on it yet, so we're in shape. That being
keep
said,
keep that keep that in.
you're talking about fighters from certain areas and especially the Pennsylvania area. We got Frank Fletcher from the Fighting Fletcher
Oh,
family.
and I say Aris can tell you all about Frank Fletcher.
We did a show about the Fletcher
I was gonna
family.
say, yeah, I was
We
saying,
broke it
I'm
down,
not
but he
surprised.
knows way more than I do. He was like
Aris,
pulling from memory and
Aris
shit.
gave me Aris gave me like a 20-minute spiel one time, or pretty close to it on Frank Fletcher.
Like I do my research. He knows all this shit by memory.
Yeah, I know. It's insane.
Fletcher, this is one of the quintessential warriors of the 80s, but one of those guys that when you think of like fun television fighters from that era, because you can put them in like certain eras. Like you got Tiger Jones and you had Kid Gavilan and so many others from the 50s that you watch them all the fucking time. Fletcher was a part of that era during the 80s when you had a chance to be able to, and it wasn't like he was featured all the time on like network television, like ABC and CBS and NBC all the time. You know what I mean? Like he started as a journeyman, more or less, in Philly, guy that was in and out of trouble a lot, and then he kind of lucked himself into the ESPN tournament, which back then was still, you would get like, when ESPN was still fledgling, but they would put on like the ESPN tournaments for boxing, and then like the divisions, and then whoever would win it would win like a title, and usually it wasn't on par for like in any because it wasn't actual like a real. Did these guys actually defend the ESPN belt? Do you know?
Good question. I don't think so, but I'm not gonna swear to that.
I don't remember.
But
Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember.
regardless of like winning that, like they would win it, and then from there, that would just give them recognition, though, in terms of like for magazines and other stuff, because it was televised, it was printed about, and you had to win like 4 or 5 fights to win it. And then Fletcher ended up winning the tournament for himself, and then from there, just became like um as often as you would see, fucking watching Punky Brewster on television, there was a good chance that later on you'd be seeing Frank Fletcher go to tooth and nail trying to kill somebody. Like, and think of the fights that he had, like Clint Jackson, Norberto Sabatar, Ernie Singletary. All these dudes he was going to absolute war with and just having brawls, and they were great fights. And then what made it even more exciting too is that like he was a character. He had missing teeth in the front. Talked about his prison stints, how he lost his teeth and everything. And then he had his mom, who Lucille Fletcher, who would always be ringside, and she was out of her fucking mind, like in a good way. You know what I mean? Like she was, always be there ringside. She had her pet stuffed animal that she would have like with a Frank Fletcher shirt on or stuff like that, holding it, shaking it around, going crazy, running around. Security's trying to hold her down. She's losing her shit the entire fight, and Fletcher would just have these absolute back and forth brawls. But and so he became such a fan favorite that he was featured in Ring, he was featured in all these other magazines, and then it looked like he was on his way to getting a title shot against Hagler because it was heavily talked about. And the money was there, would have been there for it too. This would have been an easy win for Hagler. But I mean, Aram definitely would have been eyeing that. He was like, oh, look at this shit. This is like perfect. But then it got to the point where Fletcher started, floundering though. Once he tried to reach the top, he couldn't really quite go over it. I think he first lost to Wilfred Scipion, who we discussed in the first episode about New Faces. And then from there, it just kind of like when he really stepped up, he would get hurt. It wouldn't even be like he would lose, like he would get hurt. He fought Juan Roldan, who was an absolute bruiser at middleweight back then, and a legit contender, one of those Argentinians who looked like they had an inflated record, but unlike other people with inflated records, they can actually fucking fight. Like, and Roldan beat the shit out of Fletcher. I forgot what was on the what the undercard was on it, but like Roldan beat him bad.
That
And
was Hagler Duran.
okay, yeah, he just left him there and knocked him out. And then from there, like Fletcher struggled. The last high profile fight he really had was against John Mugabe when Mugabe was on the come up. And that's another brutal one that you watch too. Like if you watch Mugabe, like he punches him literally through the ropes at one point, and Fletcher just almost like goes flying out of it and knocks him around. And then like, you see the photos that were in Ring Magazine afterwards because they covered it. I think Mugabe, after he knocked Fletcher out, he made the cover. and that's the one, that's the cover that where it has his whole record and it says the Beast is this and that and whatever, and Fletcher is sitting there, he's smiling, he's giving him a hug, but that was it. His time at the top was brief and it was exciting, but it was one of those guys that you knew it wasn't going to last and he probably wasn't going to be champion, especially in that era. Like Hagler was just
Yeah.
rampage. Like if he had fought Hagler, oh god.
Well, and the funny thing too, and without even getting into like all of the history and stuff like that of their family, which we could talk about in just a sec, but the funny thing too was that Frank Fletcher was the dude that like three or four different fighters beat to get the shot at Hagler. Like Roldan beat Fletcher to get the shot at Hagler. Scipion beat Fletcher to get the shot at Hagler. And I mean, technically it wasn't really quite. Mugabe was busy, so he had a whole bunch of fights around like the same time too. But he beat Fletcher, and then like a couple months later got the shot at Hagler. So I mean, he was definitely not like a super skilled guy and a bit more of a brawler, but obviously it was like almost kind of how everybody used to fucking joke around how if you beat Andre Berto, you got the shot at Floyd. You beat Frank Fletcher, you get the shot at Hagler there for a few years in a row. But yeah, that's like I said, getting into a brief, history of like you had kind of mentioned his family and stuff like that, getting in on it. There really became a bit of a Philly fighting institution there for a minute because he had an uncle was named Dick Turner, I think, right?
Yes. Yeah.
That was a fighter a couple
Was
decades earlier, and then he had two, I think it was older brothers. There, right? Wasn't he the youngest?
Yeah, I
I
believe so.
think. Yeah,
No, no, there was Anthony Fletcher.
okay, yeah. So Anthony, I guess, was younger then, and then shit, what was his other? I can't even remember his other brother's name right now. But anyway, they were kind of a bit like had bad luck, had gotten into a bunch of trouble and stuff like that, and just seemed to kind of not be able to keep themselves out of trouble, but nonetheless became a Philly fighting family. Too many fucking F's there. Famous Philly fighting family. Fuck, that's rough.
It's all
Anyway,
right. It's all right.
still great though. And I mean, hey, dude, they caught him pretty early. They got him at 9-2-1 for the new faces. So hey. Um, but the other one's a good one. The other one's a really good one because it's somebody I don't think we've ever talked about on the show, and that's Johnny Bumpus
Well,
when he was
wow,
5-0.
that's a good book. Two good picks.
Hell
Wow,
yeah.
Johnny Bumpus.
A highly successful issue of the ring.
Yeah, that's Mr. Bump City himself. Uh, he was a world champion, right? I think
Yeah.
he want to say briefly.
Yes, Bumpus was part of the ill-fated 1980 team. He was supposed to be a part of the Olympic team. Had a
Mhm.
ridiculous amateur career that I don't have the record up there, but like he was one of the, he was part of the generation still where you fought like fucking 4 or 5 times a week and sometimes multiple times during a day. And so, he probably had well over 500 fights or so. But, he turned pro and he was a part of that part of what was that? Tomorrow's Champions. He was one of the he was one of the members of that group as well. A part with Jesus, man, there was so many guys a part of that
Oh
group.
yeah, it was like actually like a rotating fucking
Yeah.
cast of characters. Tony Ayala,
Bobby Ches,
Alex Ramos
uh,
for there for a
yeah,
minute. Yeah, anyway.
Mitch Green.
Mitch Green. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. There was a bunch that were like only kind of like briefly. It was weird.
But Bumpus was looked upon as just a guy that was going to be like a future superstar, but no one really knew too that he had like a lot of out of the ring issues that would eventually catch up to him. So yeah, he was scheduled. I mean, he was up there to be like Pryor's mandatory at one point, and Pryor at that point was completely off the skids and off the thing, off the rails and fell off. And so when he gave up the WBA belt before he eventually would come back and claim the IBF, but he gave up the WBA belt, and Bumpus beat another. Well, we just spoke about the Argentinian guys with big records. He beat a guy named Lorenzo Garcia, and I forgot what Garcia's record was, but it was something with like one or two losses and a
Yeah,
number of
goofy,
wins.
goofy amount of wins. Yeah,
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 but it
yeah.
wasn't like a very exciting fight, and Bumpus got dropped in it. Like he didn't.
Oh,
Like,
oh no.
yeah, like it was
Oh
not
no.
exciting at all. He got dropped. He didn't look good. The guy Garcia was awkward. It just wasn't, a good fight. But everyone just chalked it up to like, and even George Benton, that he used that famous saying afterwards, look good, win this one, look good the next one. Like, he was just like,
Yeah.
whatever. But it didn't work out for him because in his first defense, he fights, Gene Hatcher in Buffalo. And
Yeah, that's a crazy fight, I feel like, because he's
yeah,
winning the fight and then like Hatcher catches him and then they like fall into a clinch or something and there's like a brawl
yeah, like
after. It's like a mess.
it's a complete mess. And then like, but he gets stopped. Like, he's out
Yeah,
on
he
his feet,
gets
he
he
gets
gets
stopped.
legitimate stopped.
And
Yeah.
then after the fight ends, and I think he realizes what happens, he loses his shit and tries to attack everybody in the ring. Like, it doesn't matter if you're
Yeah, 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 yeah,
tries to
yeah,
go back after
yeah.
Hatcher. He keeps on lunging. He looks like a crazy drunk when he's doing it. It's like insane. But
Lunatic. Yeah.
yeah, he was complete, but he was shot by then. Like, no one really knew it, but he was pretty shot. He had
Yeah.
a really weird fight with Marlon Starling after that, I believe, where he was winning it. And Starling was coming on, and like, Bumpus was fading a little bit, but then Bumpus suffered a cut or some shit, and they went to the scorecards, and he was up by like a point, and that's how he was able to, beat Starling. But then he got a fight with Lloyd Hunnigan soon after that. And what's unfortunate is that Bumpus had no business being in the ring that night, like none.
Really?
At the
Okay.
time, he was completely coked out, other stuff.
Oh no.
Like,
Yeah.
guy was,
Oh.
and Duva has
In
even
the
said,
wrong era to be like a
Oh,
borderline welterweight, dude. The
see,
wrong era.
yeah, that's not good. Coked out and
and Duva even said too that they were like, we just wanted to get him one more payday. That's why we put him in that fight, which is, dude, you don't
oof.
need to sacrifice his health for that. You know what I mean? Make him a trainer or something. I don't know, but um, they and if you watch the fight too, like they literally guide him up the stairs. His balance is so fucking bad. They have to guide him up the ring steps, like to help him.
Really?
Like he's completely, like,
I
his legs are like Bambi. Like he's
I
had
didn't
no,
real okay, so he never fought again after that. And that was just like this guy's so messed up basically that we're not gonna put him in a ring anymore. Or like
yeah,
no one in the boxing. That's just crazy to me that he never fought again after that. Like he was only like 20, he couldn't have been older than 25, 26. He wasn't not that old.
yeah, his legs were completely gone. He had nothing. Like they got
Damn.
into the ring for that fight. They tried to balance him there. He had, you see him on ice skates. Well, Hunnigan at that point was a fucking rampaging brute and just clubbed him around. And then I think like the
Ugh.
start of round two or some shit, Hunnigan before the round even really started ran across the ring and hit him again. And then Duval was like, oh, I mean, like the
Yeah.
fucking yelling for. But
Just
he did,
get the
like to
fuck
his
out.
credit, he did clean himself up. He got over drugs and all that, and then he became Kasim Uma's trainer, I believe,
Okay. Well,
and Tim Withers.
glad he didn't fight again. Damn.
But there was one scene I remember, like him and Witherspoon were co-trainers for Uma, but you could tell that they were always like clashing and trying to like beat the head trainer. And then when Uma beat Verno Phillips for a title, there's like a funny scene afterwards where both of them are trying to pick up Uma on their shoulders, and so they have to. Each one has like a leg on them because they don't know, like, because they're both like trying to get the
Yeah, and
attention.
Witherspoon's up here and shit.
Yeah, it's like the
Yeah.
first.
Yeah, it's crazy.
But yeah, drugs were just, dude. I mean, the coke era when it came in, they said that Bumpus was like, and I bet you too, he was already dabbling back in like his amateur days as well.
Sure. I
Around guys,
mean,
Mitch Green, Nyella, and the rest of them. What the fuck you think they're doing?
I no, they all lived. I know they all lived rock and roll lifestyles, pretty hard lives. But again, just it's crazy to me a guy that's 25, 26 years old is like shot like that, and clearly you're right because he never got back in the ring. He was
Yeah.
done. Like to be that done at your mid 20s is wild to
And he
me.
had the all-star team too, dude. Managed and,
Yeah,
co-trained by Lou Duva, trained by
yeah,
Georgie Benton.
yeah.
Really, though, saying to yourself, hey, let's get him one more payday. There's other ways to get somebody to help them as opposed to being like, let's put him in
Let's get you
with the
battered
best
again.
welterweight in the world right now
Yeah,
so he can get
let's get
battered
yeah.
around.
Put you know the unified champ. Here you go.
Yeah.
All right, I got one for you guys. March 1988. Just pulling up a ring here. This is an interesting one. So, Joe Lasisi, if you remember him from Nigeria, was a 12-0 with 12 knockouts. And at the time, he kind of got into he was hooked up with Miguel Diaz, who was training another guy from Nigeria at the time, Kid Hakeem. And I guess
Okay.
Sissy knew hit Kid Hakeem, and he was able to get over to Vegas to get more exposure. But this is a great and true like Carney ring. Like I don't know if it's the manager or Ring or who did this, but they shaved 2 years off that man's birthday because they listed him as 28, and that guy was 30. And I think that's if you look at his career. I think it's a big reason why he did so like right after that Ring article, he starts fighting on top rank shows. But you could tell, I feel like Bob Arum figured out how old he really was and went, we are just gonna feed this guy to Virgil Hill. We're not gonna build him. We're just gonna get him some wins and we're gonna feed him to Virgil Hill because Virgil Hill is younger. And they were like, this guy, they figured out his age or something, I'm guessing, right? So he ends up fighting, yeah, like I say, he fights on, I'm sure some of these fights are on YouTube or something, but he fought on a bunch of top rank undercards, gets the world title shot against Virgil Hill. Did he really do much to earn that title shot? Not really. But he was one of Virgil Hill's many WBA title defenses. Virgil stopped him in 7 rounds. He ended up losing to David Vetter a year later. And then after that, he went back to Nigeria and he fought a handful of times, but clearly no one wanted to, couldn't get the momentum going ever again. So ended up with his career being 28-2 with 24 knockouts. So a big puncher, had a nice glossy record, but I think the fact he was already 28, 29 when the magazine came out, you could tell Bob sniffed that out pretty quickly.
Dude, so he has
Don't-
30 at least on his record that we know of, 30 pro fights.
yeah.
And 11 out of the 30 were against dudes making their debut.
Yeah, if you look at it's a bunch of Africa. All of his fights on the Ring magazine, they're all in Nigeria. And they're all like, he's the African champion. Very, very generic. So
Yeah,
again, it's just
and won that title against a dude making his debut
right.
too,
We
which kind of
don't, we
goes
don't,
to show you
yeah,
that
we
some
don't
of
know.
these locales are kind of limping along when
Iffy,
it comes to
iffy,
competition.
really iffy. And who knows if their fights were real or not? I mean, not just throwing that out there. You don't really know. But like I said, I just think the fact that they shaved 2 years off his date of birth tells me everything I need to know.
I mean, the light heavyweight division back in the late 80s, once Michael Spinks departed, it was even getting bad when Spinks was still there, like in late
Yeah.
84. You know, thank God. That's when he saw the signs. He was like, I'm moving up. I'm not going to be fighting, Chris Diamond Jim McDonald's of the world anymore. But
Well,
anyway,
like, yeah, you look at like the guys Moore fought before he moved up. You're just like,
yeah.
Jesus, like some of Virgil's defenses, just
I mean, Marvin Johnson, look at how he came. Like, he was the one, that last one that was still around after that whole era of Spinks, Saad Muhammad, Eddie Mustafa Muhammad, all that. Johnson was the one, well, Mustafa Muhammad was still kind of around. But, anyways, Johnson was the one that was still able to win a title again. And if he didn't lose to Leslie Stewart, he would have been the one that Virgil Hill would have beat the shit out of to win the title from.
yeah, yeah. I was just about to say, yeah. Virgil smoked him at that
Yeah,
point. Yeah,
Virgil, like
yeah,
especially 1985 or 86 Virgil Hill, yeah, would have whooped on him. But
yeah, yeah.
like some of the other guys that Hill had to fight back then, like Saul Montana, Ramsey Hassan, Tyrone Frazier, you know, all these others just routes that he was going through, and the only time that's why he fought in Bismarck so much is because who the fuck else is gonna would want to watch those fights in public? You know what I mean? You can't put that in Madison Square Garden. You can't put him in Vegas.
No,
Can't do anything like that.
no,
But he was like Henry Masque, where he was such a big name. You don't even have to. They don't even have to
yeah.
know
It didn't
the fight. Let's
didn't matter. Didn't
yeah.
matter.
Let's go to the fucking place. But all right. Found another boxing digest that I totally forgot about.
Oh my God, Boxing Digest, yo.
Same thing as box, but it's the same thing as Boxing Illustrated. It was the same magazine.
Yeah, it really was. But I forgot that it was published under that name. I feel like I had a few of those too at somewhere. Damn.
Jesus Christ. Well, first off, I just opened it and they have a feature on the president of the WBU. You ever hear of a guy named John Robinson?
Would it that would have been when the title was based in England and like
Yeah.
Frank Warren was controlling the org essentially.
All right. Page 77. Hold up.
Ricky Hatton was the WBU champion.
Yep. Oh my God, bro. I just hit the jackpot. We ready?
Uh,
Oh, we got three again.
Okay.
But this is really the disparity, you guys, of what I was talking about before of saying like, you make questionable decisions at ring, but at least these guys would fight contenders and move on, do
What
something. I mean,
what year is this again?
1996, they're previewing the first De La Hoya Chavez fight. So let's think this
Oh,
is like,
okay, mid. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, it has to be early 90s
Early
because
to
this is
mid
the June 96,
96.
so this has to be early
Okay.
96. Yeah.
Okay, early 96. Okay,
All
okay.
right. First one up. And this is the guy I know least about. Cruiserweight Ryan the Italian Stallion Poletti.
Oh, I just watched a Ryan Paletti fight this week.
Of course you
Yo,
did.
oh my God. Oh my God. What a pull. Okay. Ryan Paletti, you have to watch this fight on YouTube. It is ridiculous. Okay, Ryan Paletti, I don't know much about him, but he fought Jacob Mofakeng for the WBU cruiserweight title.
Yeah.
And in 19, this is September 98, so it took a few years. But if you go find on YouTube, it just got uploaded a couple days ago because the guy who uploads it is this awesome YouTube account. I really should know his name, but he uploads a bunch of South African fights. And dude, Ryan Paletti packed out the house in like Pottsville, Pennsylvania. Now, Pottsville, I joke, sucks because it's a pain. It's like a nightmare town. It's
Yeah.
not, it's not near, it's like in between all these major cities in Pennsylvania. And it's just like, no, you don't want to, you just don't go there for any reason. It's just, it's a pain to get to. But that whole show was like a Cedric Kushner, Cedric promoted it, put all of the South Africans on there. But they packed the house with all of Ryan Paletti's fans to fight Cedric's South African cruiserweight. And my man, when Jacob Mokofeng beats the shit out of him in the seventh round, that crowd just it was like a fart in church, dude. Just
No.
like awkward, silent, depressed. And they had about that hit thousands of people there to watch Ryan Paletti. But again, one of these white cruiserweights with a very glossy record, like very, very, very glossy. And he had
Yeah.
that one loss. He might have fought one more time, but that was it, dude. The territory was dead after he lost. So I'm sorry. I just look so excited you brought him
Yeah,
up.
that's hilarious. I didn't know much about out of these three. I didn't know anything about him, but it's
Yes.
interesting. It says,
Very crafted record. If you look up his names, it's very glossy.
he says that after finishing as an amateur with 20 wins, 5 losses, and 15 KOs, Ryan was immediately offered a professional contract by Top Rank.
I don't know if that's true.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I don't think that's true. I'm very skeptical if that's real. Because
Seems like they could have
if you
been a
look,
bit more discerning.
yeah, if you look at his record, he was just fighting on like the Blue Horizon for like
Yeah.
whatever local promoter was running shows there at that point. I don't think he was with Top Rank ever.
He was like, well, was rushed to make a decision and declined. There's more than one way to skin a cat, and I
Oh,
felt it
okay.
was more important to take our time and develop Ryan's skill instead of starting off with a big time operation like Top Rank, where he may have been rushed.
Yeah. So you end up fighting no one good, and then Cedric figures out you're a big draw, and he goes, "How would you like to fight my South African cruiserweight for the WBO championship? WBO championship. I'm going to put Cassius Beloyi in the main event, but we don't have to worry about that." And like crazy. Absolutely crazy. I could not believe how many people there were there to see Ryan that night. Like there were signs and shit. Like you have to watch this fight, and it's just a
Yeah, I'm gonna check
demolition,
it.
complete
And then
demolition job.
I love this line too. It goes, Paletti's amateur coach has changed his pupil from a straightforward, reckless fighter to an aggressive brawler who now thinks in the ring and has developing skills that are surprising people. Good to know. All
Good to
right.
know.
Next guy, Darren Checkmate Machunsky.
Oh, another wow. We're pulling from New York, New Jersey here. Darren Mach. Yeah, yeah. He, yeah, he was New Jersey. I feel like he fought Fernando Vargas early in Vargas's career, and Vargas beat him up. But he popped up. He fought. I want to say he was one of those guys that fought Meldrick Taylor when Meldrick was super shot at that point too.
I think he beat Buddy McGirt as well,
I
actually.
want to see, yeah, yeah. I want to see he beat
Stop Buddy
Buddy like
McGirt. Yeah.
right at the end of Buddy's career. He beat Meldrick right when Meldrick was done too, and they were like, I feel like he popped up a lot on Tuesday night fights. But yeah, he was also another like another Blue Horizon guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just remember the fight with Meldrick and then he getting stopped by Fernando Vargas. Like I know that fight. I've seen that fight.
Yeah, the Vargas fight was on HBO. It
Okay,
was on a
okay.
Boxing After Dark. It was on Boxing After Dark. I want to say it was the undercard of the first Ivan Robinson Gotti fight. But what made that fight kind of like dramatic was because even like you said, Vargas was beating the shit out of him. He suffered a cut, like a nasty cut, and they said it was from a punch. It wasn't from. They said it was from a punch, not from a headbutt. Even though I don't think Machunsky hit him enough to cut him like that. Anyways, Vargas now had like some drama, and they were trying to. And that's when he rushed out and finished him, and it was like a bloody affair. But out of the three of this group, he was not. He's not the worst. He's definitely not the worst fighter. Like Machunsky actually could fight a little bit. Like he was underpowered. He wasn't going to become a champion, nothing
Yeah.
like that. But he could go rounds and do stuff. But this is my favorite one, the last one, and that's why I was just like, oh my god, this is incredible. And this is what I mean when in encapsulate, like, what the fuck are they doing here? How are you featuring someone like this? Don the Man of Steel, heavyweight.
Oh, come on.
Yes, I think I'm bullshitting.
Oh, zoom in on the Man of Steel. What a picture. What a picture. Yes, please. Oh my goodness.
Oh, I love it.
Wow, Don Steele. Don Steele in his belly button ring getting knocked out of the ring by Ray Mercer.
Yes.
That's what I remember. Ray just lining up a shot and just cracking him and making him fall out of the ring. I believe he won. I believe he had. I mean, his record might be glossier than Ryan Paletti's. Honestly, if you talk about a guy that just really had a bunch of empty wins.
Well, at this point, and when and in this issue, he is 24-0 with 24 knockouts.
Oh hell yeah!
Quite a few debuts I'm seeing right there. Quite a few
For
opponents making their debut, and opponents with like 0-1 and 0, 1-8
uh,
and 0, 1-3 and
so knocked out by Brian Nielsen and then stopped by the great Richie Melito. I'm sure that was not talked about in the locker room ahead of time.
Oh God.
How that was going to go down. Not at all. But the Mercer fight was that's a legit, a legit
Yeah,
fucking
that was
knockdown
that
of the
was that
ring.
stretch when Ray Mercer was fighting on Fox Sports
Yep.
and then just like fucking
I'm gonna spit.
murdering like fourth
Yeah.
tier
I'm
heavyweights.
good. I'm just gonna. He knocked like Jeff McGee's out of the ring too.
Poor
Like,
guy, dude, getting caught in the
oh,
ropes and then just getting
oh,
slaughtered.
and just Ray, like a referee didn't jump in, so Ray got a free shot on him and just knocked his lights out. That's how he got the Klitschko fight.
Exactly. They're like, okay, well, do you want to fight this big Russian guy?
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, Ray. Yeah,
I
that's
won the
how
gold one time.
Ray's final great run was due to the great thanks to Don Man of Steel. Yeah,
Yeah, like why would
yeah.
the fact that someone like that would be featured on there is absolutely insane. Like who was he calling? Or who got in touch with the people at Boxing Digest and was like, "Yo, can you
Uh,
feature my man Don Steele?" And
I
then
don't
some,
know, but I mean, like that's again the guy that really took advantage of the pre-internet days where
yeah,
it did you just saw a record book with names in it and you
It
really
even
didn't
says
know
on his BoxRec wiki was profiled as a promising heavyweight prospect when he was 24-0 with 24 knockouts in
against some
Boxing
Boxing
Illustrated.
Illustrated. That's so
I
sick.
love it.
That's so sick.
I love it.
that's an incredible profile photo of him though. Like I'm looking at the record that they have on here, and like I recognize, Jesus Christ, Nathaniel Fitch. I think that was a journeyman I know of,
Uh,
and
Danny
Frankie
Wa
Hines.
Yeah, Frankie Hines, Danny Wofford. I mean, back in the day, it's very likely like Frankie Hines had there. Those are guys that very likely other fighters fought under their name that name and lost in their place. Like the real
Oh,
Danny
yeah,
Wofford and the real Frankie Hines likely weren't in the ring for all those losses.
interesting.
Because you could get away with that back in the day,
Yeah,
pre-internet. Lack of oversight. They weren't pushing that stuff too hard back then. So not surprised to see them on the record though. If you're glossy record heavyweight, you have Frankie Hines and Danny Wofford on your record for sure.
yeah.
Absolutely. Ken Bentley, Roy Bedwell. Oh my God, those are the names I always see on every glossy record back
Did he
then.
fight? Did he fight after Ray Mercer?
He did. He ended up fighting a few more times in South Carolina. He lost to Timo Hoffman in Germany, and he lost to the real touch of sleeve Donald Holmes as well. So had a few more L's before he called it a day.
Okay.
Yeah, the Man of Steel. That's a hell of a pull.
That's so funny.
That's crazy. I can't. It's wild to me that a guy like that was with no credibility. Just here's a
I mean,
photo. Here's a record.
His promoter was Cornerstone Promotions. I have no idea who the fuck those were.
I don't know. That's amazing. Like it really does. It tells you a lot
Yeah.
about, about the lack of vetting that's going on.
All right, I got a good one here.
All right.
A really good one. It's 1996 too, but it's just coincidental because I just grabbed a fucking stack here.
It's a great year.
But yeah, I mean, especially for like, the shit to come that was in the late 90s and the early 2000s. And we got our boy Michael Grant.
Oh no, no. Oh man, Michael Grant.
Yeah, he's 15-0 with 11 knockouts at this point.
Could have had it all.
Managed by Bill Caton, trained by Don Turner, etc., etc. Good stuff here.
Lennox held and hit him, man. Justice for Michael Grant. Justice for Michael.
He did,
You know,
but you know what? He deserved it for getting picked by all those fucking morons in the magazines who were
It
like, "Oh,
was
look at this
if
young
you
athletic heavyweight."
if you've never seen that fight, go. It's just comical. Like Lennox just toys with him. And I mean, the holding and hitting stuff is just goofy, but it's really he didn't belong in the ring with Lennox that night. It didn't matter. It was a brutal beating.
I mean, he was unbelievably pushed. We're talking,
Oh my God.
the way like
Jeez.
promotions push like certain wrestlers up to the fucking moon. That's how Grant was. Like he had a rocket strapped to his back. Everybody on HBO couldn't stop gushing about, look at his body, look at this, look at he's, the prototype for the American heavyweight that we need for
Yeah.
the future and all that. Like, but if you watched his fights, they just, even when I was watching them back then, I wasn't excited to watch Michael Grant fights because they were rather pedestrian. He fought David Izon and beat him around the ring, but like Izon, first off, was undersized, and then two, Grant had the fucking cup up to his goddamn nipples, basically. So he couldn't, like, what was Izon going to even be able to do with that? I was like during the era when him and Lennox and others were pulling that shit all the time. And so he looked impressive enough beating Izon. But then,
It,
like his subsequent fights, they were just kind of like meh. He beat up Lou Savarese, but I think Savarese went the distance. You know what I mean? Like it
and
wasn't exciting to watch. Another Cedric Kushner built up heavyweight, Ahmed Abdin, that he like again he didn't look really exciting or impressive beating him up, but
just
he
beat him
saw.
up. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't
But
know. Obed Sullivan was actually
yeah.
kind of exciting, but that's because Sullivan actually fucking tried.
Yeah.
But when he fought Galata,
Uh
you know,
the alarm bells should have been going off for people
yeah,
picking. Like, how do you watch the Galata fight and then you go, you know what? This is the guy that's gonna beat Lennox Lewis. Like that's like if you watch that Galata fight, the only reason that Michael Grant beat Galata that night was because of Andrew Galata. That's
yeah,
the simple as that. Andrew Galata was afraid of success and he was mentally unwell. And if he had just kept his mind right and kept it together, like, and didn't get caught in that 10th round, he's on his way to an easy victory. That's what's crazy about that fight. He's on
yeah.
his way to victory, and he just, for whatever reason, it's just he falls completely apart. And I'll give Grant credit that he pulled it out, but my God, he did not look good in that fight, and I would never have picked him over Lennox Lewis.
No, and he wasn't even gonna. And at one point, he wasn't even gonna make it to Lewis too, because you got to remember, Ike Ibeabuchi was coming up during the same time,
Yeah,
and Ibeabuchi and Lennox were on a collision course. Not Lennox, excuse me.
yeah.
Ibeabuchi and Grant were on a collision course to fight each other. Like there was major discussions about it. There was negotiations for it. It was basically almost set in stone. But then I want to say that that's when Ibeabuchi like literally lost his mind and got in trouble, and also he was making crazy demands. So the fight fell apart. I bet Ibuchi would have beat the shit out of Grant. I'm sorry, like he would have.
Yeah.
Um, Grant would have. It was like that would have been a major fight, but like I bet Ibuchi was just better than him and stronger than him, and just in all ways. But when they made the fight, like you said at MSG, this was like this huge thing. Lennox, even though everyone knew he was like the dominant champion after finally beating Holyfield and being undisputed champion, he still wasn't like I don't think he's ever been universally loved in his career. Even like by the time he
Yeah.
retired, he was respected, but no one just like loved him. You know what I mean? Like everyone was all up in arms and excited when Rockman beat him and all that stuff. Like no one ever just really loved Lennox. And so they were ready thinking this was going to be the coronation for Grant to beat him because Grant's the new super heavyweight, the prototype, the one that's going to bring, us into the new era of the 2000s and yada, yada, yada. And like, bro, like you said, man, it's like one of the worst collapses you ever just see. Like deer in headlights has no business being there. Like
Before
Lennox
we
the
go
first
too
time.
much farther, I know Gray's got to get out of here, so I was going
Okay,
to give him a quick exit, and we could just
Yeah, I'll
continue
let you
on for one
guys.
or something. But
Yeah,
hey,
please continue on. But I just want to say thank you guys for having me on. I apologize. I'm gonna drop, but always love
bro,
yeah,
being
man,
on the
thanks for
big
having
show.
us.
box rec
Yeah,
business, you got shit to do. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah,
the
always
sport
got
does
no,
not
but
run without you.
I appreciate you guys having me on yet again. I always love coming on the pod, so thank you guys so much.
thanks, man.
Um,
Thanks for coming.
and I love talking random fighters with you guys always. So
We'll
thank
have you
you.
back for sure, bro. Thanks.
All right, take it easy.
All right, later, man. Yeah, dude, Gray's a good guy. Knows as I mean, if you couldn't already tell by listening or watching, he knows a shit ton. Like, dude, I mean, between the three of us, we remember a lot of stuff,
Oh, yeah.
when it comes to boxing and boxing history. But anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but he had sent me
No,
a
no, no, no,
message
no.
that he
It's
needed to
totally
get
fine.
going.
I was just saying that like Grant just became one of the implodes in heavyweights, and then just his career never recovered. Every time they would be like, "Oh, he's gonna be back." He tried to come back with Teddy Atlas. Um, his very first fight back,
God,
which
so
wasn't.
embarrassing. Not even him, Teddy, but
Yeah, that just was like a weird pairing. Like the first fight, it was a freak accident. I get it. He gets dropped, legitimately dropped by Jameel McCline, but he breaks his
yeah,
ankle
like broke his ankle and shit. Yeah, yeah.
immediately. Yeah, so now he has to start coming back again. But that's when you see Teddy. Oh, we're working on this. We're doing this. We're doing that. Blah, 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 blah. And
Berating him in the corner.
yeah,
Jesus
then he
Christ,
wins a
Teddy.
few fights, comes back, makes it back to HBO, fights what's his name there? Another one that didn't pan out as a good heavyweight, Dominic Gwynn. And Gwynn just, oh
Oh
man,
my
left hooks
God,
him to
dude.
hell.
You remember that shit? Remember when
I
he was
watched
like
it
leaned
recently.
back
Yeah,
across the ropes and Gwen was like fucking like gang,
yeah.
gang, like fucking just like his head was like flying everywhere and that was fucking awful.
And Teddy's just yelling, trying to give him inspiration stuff instead of giving him actual instructions. You know what I mean? Like it was, well, you can do this, all right?
Get
Think
yeah, get
about this.
somebody on his Zach Morris phone or something. This
And I'm
fucking
like,
guy.
the bro is concussed, all right? He doesn't really want to be in there. I'm like, he was lucky that Gwen was being so passive that fucking Ronnie Shields had to scream at him saying, "You have a dead man in
Yeah,
front of you.
God, dude.
Finish him off."
Such a frustrating fighter, Dominic Gwynn, because you could see shit like that and you'd be like, oh, that's what he could do. And then like the next like 5 years, people were spent trying to get that version of him out again and never did. So frustrating.
All right,
Dude,
I
and
left.
I
Go ahead.
don't know why that like sticks with me so much or why I'm not even like bitter about it. I'm more just like annoyed that like how did all of these morons pick Michael Grant? Like and I was a Lennox Lewis fan, so I'm like kind of biased, but still like I'm just like dude, did you not see like what you like? Come on, bro. And then on top of that, you see in like historical arguments and stuff like that, especially when people talk about Lennox Lewis, they're like, oh, he got bodied by Hasim Rahman and Oliver McCall, and I'm like, dude, you know what I mean? That doesn't mean anybody with a right hand could do it. These
Yeah,
were like special occasions, and he fucking got get back on that shit. So I don't know what to say, but anyway,
yeah,
Michael Grant, bro, was a
exactly.
big mistake.
Yeah, and then he ended up on one of those lists of like heavyweight. I forgot it was like World Boxing or something, but they had a full list of just like heavyweight busts. And Grant was like the last one that they profiled, along with Jorge Luis Gonzalez, who Grant did beat on the way up. But
Top
um,
level amateur heavyweight, like many of the Cuban heavyweights, and then just kind of just did not basically got
yeah.
smashed every time he went up in class in the US.
All right, I got one more briefly, and well, the only reason why I'm picking this one up because it just caught my attention because we were talking about the Fletcher family earlier. This headline on the cover of this magazine: Anthony Fletcher, does he deserve to die? That's a way to
What
put
what
something.
did it what did it say?
Anthony Fletcher, does he deserve to die?
Oh my God. Dude, some of like the article headlines that they were
Yeah.
putting, I mean, I don't know who was doing it. I just know that some of them were just like, what the fuck? Come on.
Oh, and this is actually really funny. Well, first off, I remember the article. It was really good because that's how I learned about his case, and I was like, I hope they get him off that. Like, it's a very well written article, and I know it did get a lot of attention for him, but that's just a very like odd headline. Anthony Fletcher, does he deserve to die? Anyway, as I open the magazine too, the first thing I see, speaking of Teddy Atlas, they're talking about how he lost, how Elver Maricki loses, and Teddy was trying to do commentary at the same time.
I remember that. I remember that shit. Oh God.
Oh my God.
What a grandstanding fucking not a fan.
Yeah. All right. Well, this is actually a good one to leave off on. For August 2000, lightweight Leonard Doreen.
Nice.
Yeah.
Dude, and once again, like I mean it seems to be the recurring thing for almost every single one of these that has like a substantial amount of fights behind him is that Doran was I'd have to look. I don't remember off the top of my head, but I do remember that he won a whole bunch of pretty substantial amateur tournaments. I want to say he was European amateur champion. Might
I believe
be,
so, yeah.
but I that's not even important what it was. Point is that I know that he had a lot of like international amateur experience and had gone from I'm not sure what the pipeline is from Romania to Montreal because I know there have been a number of Romanian Lucian Boutet, for
Mhm.
instance, I'm pretty sure is Romanian or something. Or, damn, dude, I could be fucking
I
totally
believe you're right. Yeah.
damn, am I making that up? Anyway, I know that there are other ones. Let's see. Lucian Popescu was probably the most famous one from Romania back in the day, but Adrian Diaconou was a dude
Mhm.
who went to, anyway, in recent years, I don't know what that pipeline is, but there has been it. And I know that Leo Doran, high level amateur, if the dude was a more of a puncher, he probably would have gone a bit farther in the pros, but he just wasn't a big one, more of a volume guy.
Yeah, and he was like, I mean, an absolute machine in there too. First time I ever saw him fight, probably for the same for you, was when he little bit of trivia. He was the headliner for the very first Showbox. When that
Was that
debuted.
that wasn't Balby, was it?
No, 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 that was on HBO.
Yeah, that would.
He
Yeah, I
was
was about to say,
he fought I want to Martin O'Malley, I believe it was.
huh?
Yeah, on the very first, he was the main event of the first Showbox. So it
Did
was
you didn't work that shit, did you?
nah, bro. I was in high
Was that
school.
like a little
That was
before your time?
like 2001. Yeah, I definitely was not on the scene. I was
Oh,
just
okay,
making.
yeah. So
I
you've been
was
like, yeah, 'cause you like graduated a little bit after
in.
that, probably. Yeah.
Yeah, I graduated '03. I was just going to the Hall of Fame, and people like, "Who's that kid?" Anyways, Doreen, like he it was impressive against O'Malley, who I mean, who was a good amateur, but didn't really pan out as a pro. And then when he fought Balby, that was on Boxing After Dark. I
That's
want to
right.
say that was on the undercard of Jesse James Leija against Mickey Ward.
Yeah.
And because that was the fight that was supposed to be the one that everyone's like, oh my God. And then, Balby and fucking Doreen stole the show. And that was one of those, that was one of the last, I want to say, in my opinion, one of the last like true boxing after dark type fights because it featured guys that normally were never featured on television, especially Balby. I think that was his first time being shown on American television. And Doreen had only been shown a limited amount of times. Like hardcore fans would know who these people are. The average fan would not, and especially back then because this was like still pre YouTube and all this other stuff. People were just tape trading. So that fight was an absolute fucking war. That was one of my favorite fights to watch back then. You know what I mean? Like those two just beat the shit out of each other.
Yeah,
You
dude.
know, and I'm shocked that the way Doreen came out of that because bro was like eyes swollen shut, cut up, sliced. And he got whooped up, but he won. I think it was kind of a controversial decision, right? Because I
Yeah, it
haven't
was like
watched any
a.
units.
I'd have to look. It was like a split decision, majority decision, or just a really close decision. And yeah, and it was kind of like he got in a few rounds. It looked like he got beaten up a little bit,
Yeah.
but it was back and forth. It was a war.
It was a great fight. And then they had a rematch, and that wasn't televised, but from what I read, wasn't really competitive. But I mean, he and he ends up fighting Paul Spadafora soon after in a unification on HBO.
Yeah,
And again, that's a fight that I have not watched since it happened. But from what I remember, I think I thought that Doreen had won.
a lot of people did. Yeah,
Yeah.
I thought he won. I mean, I haven't watched it in a long time. I'm not gonna lie, but I remember thinking that Doran won, and I thought that like it was bloody. They were both cut and like all fucking bled all over the place and shit like that. I want to say it was a draw or something.
Yeah, yeah, it was a draw. Yeah.
But like but it was super close. And it was also a case of like, both of them just throwing a ton of punches and never really hurting the other one because neither of them had a bunch of punching power.
Yeah,
But great fight, underrated fight, really.
for sure. And I don't I don't know what his record was after that. I mean, how many times he fought, but I know eventually when he was supposed to fight Gotti at junior welterweight, that was a fight I was looking forward to. I'm sure everybody else was too because that looked like it was going to be can't miss, you know.
Well, he
Um,
actually, I brought up Chucky T earlier. He fought Chucky T. That was
oh,
on
okay.
like, it must have been on like either Friday Night Fights or something because I remember watching it. But he like beat Chucky T up. Chucky T was like a
Yeah,
regional
yeah.
guy.
But then but when he fought Gotti, that was one of the more when you have like a fight, like for instance, I can imagine, well, Freddie Pacheco, for instance, told the story how when he was in the army, he convinced all of fort or whatever won some kind of thing where they were gonna have like free rec time for a few hours and do shit, right? And Pacheco insisted he was like, "Yo, let's use that time to watch the Marciano Jersey Joe Walcott rematch." And they had cigarettes and they had candy and they had this and that and soda and he was like, and the guys were like, "You sure this would be a good idea?" And he was like, "Yeah, man. The first fight went 13 rounds. I'm surely this one will go the distance. It'll give us at least an hour to like chill out and do all that shit." And it lasted fucking only one round. And then they said that the GI or the guy came in there, clean this shit up. Everything's done. Get back to your corners and started yelling.
Yeah, not even time for a fucking beer and a cigarette. That shit was
Exactly.
over.
And everyone wanted to beat up Freddie Pacheco for that because they fucked up their timing. But like, not the same thing. But everybody I remember was really excited about this fight. It was profiled in all the
I
magazines and
remember being
people.
excited for it. I remember that shit.
Yeah. And a lot of people were thinking that Doreen would win, and understandably, you know what I mean. He had the style to give Gotti fits. Didn't look like he can be hurt, and Gotti at that point was he was during his little like reviving period, but I mean he was already like a spent bullet, so everything looked right. But then Gotti hit him with a disgusting body
Yeah, he was
shot.
just too big.
Yeah,
He was too big, dude. Gotti was cutting his fucking liver out to get to 130 and then
yeah,
basically, pretty much skipped 135 altogether. I
he
mean,
did.
he stayed there for a, cup of coffee, but then went up to 140 because that was it. And then was killing himself to make 140, just killing himself to make 140. So, I mean,
Yeah, in
Leo
addition, he had
Doran and
jumped all the way to 147 to fight Oscar.
Leo Doran coming up from 135 and already being kind of short, stubby, not much power. On paper, I still thought it was going to be a great fight because I was like, dude, he's volume. He's
Yeah,
gonna be right there in front of him. It should, for however long it lasts, be great. But it was like a guy versus a kid, dude, and he like leaned down and was like, "Good night, bank," and Doran was just like, "Nah, mm-mm-mm." Took a knee, understandably, because that shit was a brutal body shot. But that was it. And I want to say he was probably like, I don't know, fucking 37 or something like that at that point. He wasn't young, and he had a long amateur career. So, I'm not super surprised he might have retired after that. But now I'm curious what it was that he had done. Oh, does he not have a BoxRec wiki? Wait, that's
really?
kind of weird. Well, in any case, I figured he might have, but um, I just out of curiosity. Yeah, so he was a European amateur champion and he was an Olympian.
Mhm.
So yeah, he had a long, fairly prestigious amateur career. It's impossible to predict what that even means at this point. You know what I mean? In other eras, totally different.
Yeah.
Dude, I thought it was a good spread of names once again. Yeah, I think that going into the other magazines was also helpful. I should probably next time we do this shit pull out some of them other magazines, like the other covers
Oh
and
yeah,
shit.
we definitely have to do a part three because these are fun. It's interesting to see to look back, especially blindly doing it to see who like was being profiled, and then if you see a name that's gonna make you like scratch your head, you have to think about why would they be in profile and think about who was their manager or
Yeah,
their
it's like reverse
publicist or
engineering
whatever.
it. It's like you
Yeah,
already know the ending, so you need to kind of go back and see where were they thinking doing this.
yeah,
And sometimes it makes sense, and sometimes it's like what? Okay, but no, dude, it's the whole process of how they get the fighters there to that prospect space and then kind of into the public eye fascinating. I appreciate you kind of going through a little bit of homework with me, dude, and also shout out to our boy Grey Johnson, who is as always a fun co-host and guest whenever we've had him on. So if you do not have a BoxRec Plus account, you should get one. Honestly, you really should because apart from just supporting, this record keeping website that's been around for more than 2 decades now and has done just a really tremendous amount of work to make sure that everybody's up to date and that we can all look at some fighter's career at any given time and figure out who they fought and all that type of stuff. And a lot of times far more detail than that too. That shit's a lot of work, so contributing to them and contributing to a good, hardworking company is helpful, and we use them a lot. But also beyond that, there's a lot of really cool stuff on the site you can do that they've brought up in the last few years. I know this is sounding like a BoxRec commercial here, but I got to do it anyway because he's our boy. But there's a lot of really cool stuff you can do, like your own pound for pound rankings and stuff like that. You can follow different fighters and updates. Very cool. So make your own BoxRec Plus account. That's what I would say. It's like $1 a month still. So like, what are you
Yeah, I
doing
mean
here?
it's a brilliant website that I'm on literally
You
every
and
day.
I every single day. You and I use it literally every single day.
There's
It's dumb for me to use it that often and not pay for it. Like it doesn't make
Oh,
no
for
sense.
sure. And I mean, the rabbit holes that you can go down it. Like, I'm trying to, for instance, today I was watching Top Rank Tubi or whatever, and something came up for Hagler came on. And I was curious again because, like, I'm like, all right, I need more info of how Mugabe got this title shot because he was a junior middleweight. You know what I mean? And then just started going through the details and all that. And it's not like they gave you like every detail of what it is, but they give you enough of it that you can start going through this and then go through that and blah, 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 blah. And like, there's just so much, and then the subcategories make it so much easier, like you said too. Like you go to recent deaths, and you need to look up this person,
Like
how they
click
passed away.
around,
Yeah,
just like look through shit. Like it doesn't have to be you're always looking at the Muhammad Ali box rec. Like you could fucking look around. But that's one of the really cool and fun things about the website is learning. And that's one of the cool and fun things about doing the show too, I will say. It's not I think that people who listen and watch on a regular basis know this. So I'm kind of preaching to the converted in that regard. But I just want to make sure people know that, like, we don't consider ourselves like the masters. We're not the fucking holders of boxing history information or anything like that. And I consider, and I'm pretty sure you do too, every time we do these shows, it's like, it's also a chance to learn and hear new shit because I do every single time. And so
as do I. Yeah,
it's appreciated, dude. I appreciate you doing the work, and I'm sure we'll get back on this shit soon.
definitely, man. Can't wait.
All right. Well, everybody who listened in, thank you so much. Go ahead and whatever podcast app you use, follow the Knuckles and Gloves podcast. Give us a little rating. Appreciate it. If you're on YouTube, what's up? Thank you. And go ahead and subscribe there. Leave a little comment and all those sorts of things. Thank you so much, Aris. We will talk soon, bro.
Have a good one.